Hello. I hope you can hear me. How are we all doing? I've been better, I'll be honest.
Don't ask.
Why? What's going on?
Well, you've been better.
Oh, just fighting with YouTube on a regular basis. But I think I'm here. Fingers crossed. Am I here yet?
Yeah.
Yay, I'm here.
Just.
Oh, God. Hello, everyone. Right, at least I can now see you because I had you in a different browser. It's a long story. So, let me have a look. Oh, Carol was first. Hello, Carol. Oh, no Captain Stable today. I've been bereft. Actually, I went somewhere else. Don't ask. That was bad as well, wasn't it?
Don't ask.
No, leave it alone. It was going to be a spectacular about AI. They need to see Dickie and Cole, let's just say that. Hello, Kim. Hello, Patience. And we've got Deb and we have Pandemonium. Hello, Jonathan. Who else have we got? We've got Peter. Oh, silly o'clock for work. That should be banned. Definitely banned. And Renee is in the house. Hello. And who else do we have? Have I got everybody? I think I've got everybody. Oh, Kim's finally downloaded Obsidian. Taking her all week to set it up. Oh, dear. It'd be so worth it, though. So worth it. Elaine has 2 brains. Yeah, I'm thinking of outsourcing. Do you think the AI is the third one?
And I have 2 brain cells.
Right, okay. Rare old night. All right, I've lumped something together as updates. But I'm just realising as I look here, where's Jammy? Because Jammy asked the question and I've got the answer and he's not here.
He'll be at the gym.
Ugh, that should be banned. Hello, Walter. Good afternoon from Atlanta, Georgia.
I've been there.
I bet it's warm there.
I've been there.
Wasn't that one of the many airports you spent quite a while in?
I spent a lot of time at Washington.
Oh, yes,
on the way to Atlanta.
Yes, because being the naive creature he was, he decided to go and pick up his luggage when his luggage could have gone through.
I didn't know that, yeah.
And by the time he'd found his luggage, he'd missed the flight. So, yes, he was in Washington a while, heading to Atlanta. But I believe it's quite warm there. We've got friends in Texas, haven't we? Which is down in the south, but probably millions of miles away from where you are. I've always fancied going to the deep south. I think it was that James Bond film with the funeral in it. Wasn't that? Oh, where was that? It was like not Calypso. Oh, I loved it. That was my mum's favourite bit of any James Bond film, that. Oh, right. 78 degrees. See what I mean? It'd be far too warm for me. I mean, we're touching at the moment 10. What's that in old money? What's 10 in whatever the other one is? Mike will find out. It's 10 here and I'm moaning it's too hot. Trust me, 10 is not hot. It'll get worse before it gets better. Trust me. Right. Okay. So let's have a look at what we've got tonight. Let's make sure everything's moving. I can't see everything moving, but let's assume everything's moving. Right. We have the week at MacBites headquarters. Weird old week, really. The subtitle of which is All Together Now, Don't Mention the Match. But more on that shortly. Then I've got updates. So I think I've got 3 updates altogether. They're only itty-bitty things. So I didn't want to overload the agenda. But we have news on Hindenburg. And we have news, an answer to the question that Jammy asked. And now he's not here. Naughty boy. We'll deal with him later. And something else that I've totally forgotten. Then, biggest news of the week as far as I was concerned. Oh, productivity dream. Vivaldi 6. They have completely surpassed themselves. If you remember, I had one real moaning fest when they changed the icon of a button. They just changed it from a triangle to a jigsaw piece and I went mad. Good news on that front. But lots more besides. So I have been flying around my browser this week. No excuse for not having anything done. Then we've got Farrago 2. You may never have heard of Farrago, but you will actually have heard it if you've attended any of our live sessions, because we use it. Then Mike, Toblerone Thomas, to his friends, is giving us the rundown of the filter function. There you go. Oh, it's Mrs. Renee's birthday. Happy birthday, Mrs. Renee. And then we've got MOCs in Obsidian, so Kim's downloaded it at just the right point. Just the right point to get this set up with MOCs, which is maps of content. This will probably take more than 1 week because I'm going to do it in 2 completely different ways. One's the standard way, although having said that, there isn't really a standard way because everybody does it different, but I've got another way to do it. Tantamount to a dirty hack, so Kim will love it. Right, we are broadcasting in 1080p. Make sure that you are receiving in 1080p. Cog, lower right-hand corner, where you will set it to the one with the red flash on it. And then, while you're down there, there's a like button. I like the like button. YouTube likes the like button. We all like the like button. So we're going to head back to last Saturday, where I was waiting, if you recall. We just got to 27,000 and I was saying to you, if you all remember, when we get to 30, we'll do something amazing. And I said for my birthday, in case you're wondering, my birthday's the middle of next month. So we hit 28,000 on the Saturday. Unbelievable. 24 hours, we had another 1,000. Even more inspiring to me than that was the fact that I hit 3 million viewers. So thank you if you've ever watched anything. So I found that out, as you can see there, via TubeBuddy, which is an app I've got on my phone. I thought I'll get up and I'll, first thing I did, check my stats. It wasn't even out of bed. I'll head off to my desktop and glorify myself in the moment. Yeah. Not good news. Not down, but blocked. But if you actually look at the URL, it was from Notion. So I have a page in Notion for each show, and I was on that page and I clicked it, and that's what got me that. Bad words were said, you can imagine. Also panic set in. What do you mean it's blocked? What do you mean I'm blocked? But it wasn't blocked if we went directly. So something's gone wrong with the Notion embeds. Have you tried it since?
No.
Because I just said bad words and then got on with it. Can you try it now and see if they fixed it or not? We think it was blocked because it was an SO domain. But yes, I did hyperventilate. Then there was the Asda Joy.
No, it's still blocked.
Oh, there you go. So it's still broken. Week on. We'd moved to Asda. They gave us flowers, if you remember. So Mike stuck with them. I think this was the 3rd week. But he's like an expectant father, aren't you? When they send a mail at 3 p.m. that says he's on his way. Yes, but he's not due till 9 o'clock. And then Mike can't settle. But it didn't really matter. It seems though when he got here, he had nothing. No, nothing in the way of actual food. But did mean, end of the week, lost a few pounds because there was nothing to eat. Guess who's going back to Tesco's this weekend? Cap in hand, is it, Mike? Oh, never mind. So, Sunday. Now, I worked really late on Saturday because of what was going on Sunday. I knew what was going on Sunday, and I figured to my little self I did not need to be party to it until much later. Much, much later. It was the Manchester Marathon on Saturday. Manchester's a fairly big place. I think they could run 26 miles and avoid our front door, but they never seem to manage it. This is the map. Instead of going from the centre of Manchester, which is at the top of that map, all around the little towns and villages around Manchester, no, they head straight for us. If you're wondering, we're there. They head straight for us. They do a circuit and then head straight back. Yeah, so we usually suffer. We are this year we were between the 12 and 13 mile mark. I'm sure last year we were 17 and 18,
I think they were.
But I think they went closer to your mother last year, but they didn't get past Altrincham Interchange this year. They did go up to Hale Barnes, didn't they? And all the way around there. So they change it slightly every year, but it's never more convenient than any other year. You basically cannot cross the main road. If we'd have wanted to head south, it would have meant a 12-mile detour. So we took the Sage option and slept in, ignoring the entire circus, as usual. I think the only time I really enjoyed it was when Maya went out, and we had no idea it was actually passing our front door. And he went out and he thought they were there to pay homage to him, obviously. And we didn't disillusion him on that. We did have sight of the superheroes, the sale superheroes. So Batman would put the call out asking for photographs. Obviously, he was otherwise engaged. and couldn't take his own. The funniest thing with that is on the front they all have their names, so they have their runner numbers, but they also have their names, and he is actually listed as Batman. So I think he is the original Batman. And if you missed him, he's running the London Marathon on Sunday, so you'll be able to catch up. Meanwhile, I was watching. I was otherwise occupied. You know what they say about a watch pot never boiling? It was a nerve-wracking wait. But where are we up to now? This is Sunday. I don't know where these people are coming from, but you're most welcome. Now, then there was the slight issue of the Premiership match, wasn't there? And he was still grumpy from last week's Tin Pot European thing. He needn't have worried. It's Nottingham Forest. I actually thought the most interesting thing of the weekend, because they didn't exactly set the world on fire, did they? Neither did Forest, to be honest. They just basically turned up, knocked a couple in, and that was it. But I thought what was fascinating was the Nottingham Forest badge. Now, need to understand, Nottingham Forest was my mum's team. And it's a bit of trivia for you designers out there. The club was celebrating 50 years of the club crest. Now, I always thought the club crest in about 78, 79 was really trendy. But as time went on, I thought it looks a bit 70s, and I wasn't wrong. It was actually the result of a competition in 1973. And I had never heard this story before, but the winner of the competition received the princely sum of, drumroll please, £25. That was a bargain for the club, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And they've been using it ever since and intend to carry on using it. But when you think this team have won 2 European Cups since then, that was a good deal. It was a good deal. So I carried on working into the small hours of Monday morning. And I don't know what on earth possessed me at this moment to think about this. But I thought, I must have been grumpy over something. And I thought, I'm going to write to Microsoft, I thought, and complain. What was I complaining about? Well, they've been promising for ages, at least 9-10 months, that a feature would be coming to PowerPoint for Mac that has been in PowerPoint for Windows since time immemorial. I went into PowerPoint. Guess what? It was there. Literally did an update and it was there. Yay! So this feature is being able to lock objects. Now, you could always paste something to the background, but don't do that because you can't unpaste it from the background. But what you could never do was actually just lock an object. And it was the biggest thing that was missing from PowerPoint since I switched. It was there, and I was literally just going to tear them a new one. I was going to say, you promised this feature X number of months ago. When are we likely to see it, blah, blah, blah. And then luckily I checked before I actually sent this missive off to them, and the feature's there. If you want to see it, I'll demonstrate it for you. But not tonight, obviously. Anyway, more confetti after that, because once I'd got that out of my system, I went to check my stats again. So at 30,000, I'm not quite sure what's the something special you'd like, but if you've got any ideas, put it in the chat. Put it in the chat, because now I need something, because it happened Monday, much earlier than I expected, let's put it like that. On Tuesday, I was feeling a little bit under the weather. Remember this, Mike? I was a grumpy.
You're grumpy.
I was needing rest, let's say that. So I headed off with my laptop in hand to lie down and work on my laptop. That is kind of the cataclysmic effect of me trying to work on a laptop. Oh, did it? It was bad. First off, it took ages for any app to update from the App Store. And I don't mean 5 minutes instead of a minute. It was taking 3 hours. I didn't need any of them, but that's not the point. Worse than that, I then started using some shortcut keys from Keyboard Maestro. Weren't working. I thought, is Keyboard Maestro not running? Yes, it was. I have no idea who to blame for this, but I've got a sneaking suspicion that Apple will be involved. My data had been nuked. So you have a little file that has your macros in it, and it had been deleted. Thanks for that. Luckily, it was on Dropbox. Then I did an update to Vivaldi, not expecting much, to discover it was the 6.0 update, which on this laptop was just crashing every 30 seconds. So the stress of lying down to get some rest meant that I actually felt worse than I did in the office. So back to the office I trudged. It was bad news. If it wasn't broken, it was when I'd finished, put it like that. So, Wednesday dawned. Yes, I'm as surprised as you. 1,000 people a day at this rate. I celebrated by putting up another short. I definitely need with the shorts to get some kind of process going. Isn't that what you would say?
I need to do the same.
Yes. Anyway, this one was about page numbers and the 2 different ways that you could handle page numbers. So that was my third one. I'm getting ambitious now. I've actually planned 5 that are a series. That doesn't mean they'll happen in less than 5 weeks, but there you go. So Thursday, yes, it was watched pot time again while I was resting. And yes, we made it. We got to 32,000 on Thursday. Thursday, of course, was the tin pot. So this was the second leg. Let me know if you have stuff like this in the States. Do you play like home and away?
Kim loves your shorts.
Oh, good. There will be more coming, I promise. Yes, the European tin pot. You may recall the horror of the first leg last week. It didn't end well. It started fabulously. This was last week. So they play 2 games. One is home, one is away. The idea is that you drag them home and stuff them, a technical term in football, because there are certain teams, aren't there, like Galatasaray, and I would say Sevilla are the same, where their grounds are like David and the Lions, aren't they? You don't want to be going over there and needing to get a goal, let's put it like that. So we actually scored 2 for them, if you recall. We were winning 2-0, but didn't think it was fair, so we gave them 2 goals. Don't ask. This one was the second leg, so Groundhog Day. Now, I said surely history couldn't repeat itself. Mike said words. Truthful words, weren't they? No, it wasn't quite Groundhog Day. It was Groundhog Day, but worse. Yeah, 3-0. So, throughout the entire game, there is a commentator, and I must admit, he just talks waffle, doesn't he? But if he said once, you couldn't see this coming, you couldn't see this coming, no one could have seen this coming, he must have said it 20 times. I'd like to assure them publicly that Mike did see it coming. So if they could just step aside from their roles as commentators and let Mike tell it as it is, we'd all be better placed. So we are now out of the tin pot, the Euro tin pot. So don't mention the match. Which took me on to Friday. Again, I was trying to rest on Friday and it didn't end well. Do you know what I actually took in to work with, just in case? A notepad and some Pentel pens and a highlighter in an elastic band. Look at that, Mike.
Oh.
Yeah, and then I realised, because this was like 3 o'clock in the morning on Friday, I thought, that was a bit stupid, wasn't it? Because there's no light on. So how are you going to write in this paper notebook? So it's all right, I went back digital. But much, much later, in fact, it was 8 minutes to 9 tonight. Yes, 33,000. So I think that's 5,000. Is it 7,000 since last week or something like that?
It is something like that.
Hello to each and every one of you. I can't see the bottom of the chat at the moment, but I'm sure Mike will fill me in. Ideas for celebrating this, because we'll probably be up to 50 by the time I've thought of something. So put your ideas in. Anyway, let's do some catch-ups. Last week I mentioned an app, and it was only in passing. I was saying that there used to be an app for taking screenshots. It was free and it was the nearest I'd seen to Sketch. Do you remember me saying that, Mike?
I do.
Oh, good. Right. I remembered what it was. Age is a terrible thing. It's Monosnap and it's still available. But I also mentioned that the price...
And was its logo a hummingbird?
No. That was the cloud service I couldn't remember. Something else I couldn't remember. Do you know, they do tell you that age gets you like this, and when you're a kid, you don't believe it. And obviously, I'm only 20 now. No, it's Monosnap. It is still going. There it is. I'm not sure if there is a free version to download, because you can see I've got the download icon because I did download it and I used it, and it was a great app. There you go. Free version, non-commercial purposes only. Right. But the thing was, it went from being totally free to having in-app purchases. Frightening in-app purchases of $199.99 a year. Yes, I don't know where you get that from, going from a free app. Now, that is a non-commercial plan lifetime. There is monthly fees, there are yearly fees. I do wish that the App Store would let you expand that a bit. You know, why not put that on a line of its own so we can actually see what each of those plans are? Because, you know, to waste that much text at the beginning to say non-commercial. But anyway, non-commercial plan, lifetime there, $199.99. So it didn't happen. It didn't happen. There you go. But if you are interested in it, then, you know, please go and have a look. It was a good app. It was just when it went silly like that. Right. The other thing was Jammy's question, which was channel chops. You're wondering, aren't you? I mentioned apparently this was back in 100 and something, episode 105 or something, that there was an expensive book that explained the real detail of blend modes. The real detail of blend modes. And I'm talking what we have now in Photoshop and Affinity Designer is like nice little knobs and buttons to tweak, to change the blend modes. But this book was written back in the day when you had to put the numbers in yourself. But it did explain everything fabulously, and it became a cult classic. This is it. There is one available. They've only got one available at the moment, but there is one available on Amazon UK at the moment. And as you can see, it is the princely sum of £153.88, which was about 3 times what I paid for it back in the day. I got it around 2006 because I won a prize, didn't I? If anybody remembers Photoshop TV back in its early days, it was Photoshop Radio and then Photoshop TV with Scott Kelby. And they ran a competition because they were coming to London with a conference. And this thing was way out of my price range at the time, I can assure you. So it was competition. So I put my name in the hat for the competition. Didn't get notified before the show came out, and my name just popped up at the end, and I thought, yes, I've got a ticket. So we made a weekend of it, didn't we?
We
or
did.
A couple of days. We went down, we did the Apple Store. We did a theatre production that was on that I wanted to see, and we did this event, and Bert Monroy was at this event, and this book got mentioned, and I managed to snag a copy a lot cheaper than that. But there you go. Now, the one thing I will say is I don't think that book, I mean, it's old, but I don't think it was published in 1879. I'll just say that.
Debbie S. remembers Photoshop TV, she says.
Oh, it was great. Do you remember that one with the smoke?
Mm.
There was this particular episode and they're doing a demonstration with some smoke, and there was a lady in it, and really she should have had her blouse buttoned up, and this smoke appeared in totally the wrong place, and the guys just lost it, and they couldn't speak for like 5 minutes. It was a classic episode. It was very, very good. Anyway, that is the book. You can get it from Amazon. I did look for a PDF copy, couldn't find one. There was some highlights on Google. Is it Google Books? Google something, but not the whole book. And I'm not surprised. I don't even know if New Riders are still going. Weren't they based in Birmingham? Were the Rocks? WROX?
Can't remember.
But they were big technical book producers in their day. So, yes, you can get the book that I mentioned. No, it's not cheap. And the third thing is Hindenburg PRO. So, I have demonstrated Hindenburg before. Hindenburg is an audio editor that is made... I mean, there are a million audio editors out there, and I do use others. So I pre-edit in Twisted Wave, and then I take it into Hindenburg. Hindenburg is more of an assembly editor with radio stories in mind. But obviously, when they built it for radio producers, and then podcasting took off, and podcasting is kind of telling a story, it works fantastically for podcasters. Version 2 has been in beta for about 3 months. And they announced yesterday that it is being released next Tuesday. So we all need to know lots of things about that. So how will you go about it to know if you've already got it? You know, if you're buying it from scratch, I do believe the listed price is $399. For a perpetual license, you can still buy that. There's also a subscription option if you would prefer to pay less, but every year. And there is a light version as well. Nothing to stop you sticking with the version that you've got, but if you do want to upgrade, then you're going to need to make a decision between the perpetual license and the subscription license. And before you think, well, that's a no-brainer, the subscription license includes transcription hours, whereas the perpetual license does not. If you want the transcription editing service, you would need to pay extra for that on top of the perpetual license. The perpetual license is the one I've got, and at the moment that is £299 to upgrade. I will let you know what happens next Tuesday when I've looked into it over the weekend. I think I'll probably go for the perpetual license, but I've looked at the page and it's all a bit hazy as to what's what. So I've got like the basic prices, but I need to look at it more carefully at the weekend. Right. Oh, Carol says she's got some of Bert's books, but not that one. Do you know, it's probably the kind of thing you'd find cheap in a library in the UK or a second-hand bookshop who don't particularly know what they've got. Having said that, like I got a law book. This law book was, I think it was about £399. And I went into the second-hand bookshop and I said, that's the new version to my mum. I'd got an older copy of this. I said, that's the new edition. So by this stage, it was a 2-volume thing. So she picked one up. And they did know that it was a 2-volume thing, so this wasn't per book. And the guy said, oh, I'm sorry about that. That one is a bit expensive. Someone was like, yeah. She picked it up and opened it, and it was £30. She had the money out of her purse that fast. So I could get the new version of this book that was like 400 quid. Oh, love it. Right, let's move on to our first demo. Oh, I am so excited about this. More than is good for a woman of my age. Vivaldi 6 released on Tuesday. If you remember, that was what I was updating to when I was in a prone position. And it was Crashville. Crash. Wasn't actually Vivaldi's fault. I just think it's that laptop. That laptop hates me almost as much as I hate it. The laptop I had before that was from 2012. It's 11 years old and still going. Love that laptop. This one that I got to replace it, because I thought the other one will die. It's going to go, just a matter of when. So it's 5 years old, this MacBook Air, and I've loathed it since day one. Time for a new one, I think. But Vivaldi 6 came out, and it is a game changer. They half added a feature about 5 weeks ago. And I thought, what's that option? And I clicked on it, it didn't do anything. And I thought, okay, so seeing the title of it, I thought, well, let's have a look. What could it be? And I wasn't that excited. They have now rolled this feature out, and it's the best thing since sliced bread. So let's go and have a look at that. Let me know in the chat if you use Vivaldi. Right, I have got Vivaldi somewhere. That's what caused problems before. All right, there's Vivaldi. And what I have done with this is literally strip it back. So there is nothing in here. I've had it all configured all week, and I've stripped everything out so you can see it. So I need that, and I need my list of things that I need to tell you. Otherwise, the rest of it won't make any sense. So let's start with that. So first of all, I have a dark theme. Mine is a custom theme. I think we discussed themes. I think it was Kim that mentioned themes a while back. But I have my default theme. I prefer it dark, and I found the blue a bit cold, so my accent colour is orange. So this that we're looking at is the new setup. Now, looking at it, you might think, don't see anything that different than the old setup, but there actually is. There is a new default, which is the title bar. So many moons ago, there was a thing about, was it Safari that brought out tabs at the top?
I think it was.
And it was a case then of how close to the top the tabs were. Well, in the preferences in here, so this is the preference window, and underneath appearance, there is this show title bar, and this was on previously by default. So I'm going to make this a bit smaller so we can see it toggle on and off. Right, but we're looking at the very top edge of the browser. The new default is to toggle that off. How it used to look was like that. So it does make a bit of a difference, although it is quite a waste of space. But the difference that you've got is you have the title of the website at the top, and you have the traffic light icons at the very top as well. But there's nothing else in that space. So they have decided, in their wisdom, that the new default is going to be that toggled off, which means all the buttons move in a bit and your traffic lights are now to the left of the address bar. And there is no title showing. I had a concern with that. My concern was, would I be able to grab the right place to move the window? So aim for the top and move the window. And yes, you can. So you can do it about that. The other issue with that was that mine was broken. And if mine was broken, maybe yours would break. In fact, but for the fact I installed it on a different machine, I wouldn't even have known that this was the new default, because putting the tick in and taking the tick out on this machine that you're looking at did nothing. I had to reset 2 groups of settings to actually kickstart it. So go in and check if you're using Vivaldi that is actually working. I've now got it the default way, and I'll see how I go with that. Right, so that's the first thing to think about. Right, I don't like tab stacks. So again, in the preferences here, this is not something new, but there were tab stacks in here somewhere. Let me see if I can find them. Stacks. Oh, no. Tab. Oh, never mind. Let's go down to here, to the tabs. Tab stacks. Are they in here? Where are you? There are tab stacks in here somewhere. Here we go. Tab stacking. Right, I turned it off completely. My problem with the tab stacking was, as I was moving the tabs, they were stacking and I just wanted to move the tabs. So one day it did it once too often and I thought, can you turn this off? Yes, you can. So I have tab stacking turned off. This is relevant to what we're going to come on and talk about. I also am ultra minimalist in terms of extensions. So I only have 2 showing. This is copy tab info and this is readwise. This is where I access all of my others. So my others are in there, but I don't need to see them. I don't have the status bar showing at all, and pretty much everything else is turned off. My tabs are on the left, as you know. I don't have tabs across the top. The rationale for that is I can see the title down the side, and I can comfortably fit more into this space here. Don't disappear. You've gone into the other screen, haven't you? The entire space there. Should we try that again? Oh, come on. You know you want to. Right. All of that can contain tabs. So I can get comfortably far more on there than I can with them across the top. So I have my tabs on the left. Because I've got my tabs on the left, I have moved my panels to the right. So any panels I've got are over there on the right. So mine probably looks very different to yours, but it makes sense to me. I control the tabs and the panels with 2 related shortcut keys, which are the same in every app. It's Control, and that is Control, even on the Mac, and the square bracket to turn the tabs off, on and off, so on and off, and the right square bracket for the panels, on and off, and that I fly around the browser. Right, the new feature, or one of the new features, is workspaces. So you can see at the top here, it now says workspaces. So I have a blank page, but I also have this option for workspaces. Now we could always create multiple windows, but they can be a bit tricky to manage because you've got to then navigate to the correct window to try and focus on what it is you're trying to focus on. So workflows is to do with focus. Right. If I click the drop down on there, you can see that get organised with workspaces, but I don't actually have any set. That's because I nuked them all to show you what I set up. So I'm going to make a new workspace. So the first option is, do you want to make a new workspace standalone, or do you want to move the one tab you have to that workspace? So I'm going to just say new workspace, and it creates this workspace here. So the one problem I have found with workspaces is I have not found a way yet to reorganise them. So I wanted to have one called admin at the top. So I'll create the admin one first. This little car thing, you can choose an icon. Now there isn't actually that many there to choose from. They certainly weren't scrolling for me and there didn't seem to be a search. But I figured rather than have these, which are all very well, but emojis can be colourful. So I thought, let's have emojis instead. So I wanted a tick for this one. This is like my to-do stuff. It's work in progress. It will be my email and my calendar. So I use that one and then just hit create. That takes you to it. So now you've got your start page, which is, that's not a workspace. That's just a window. But this is where I actually am in there. So in here, I could start opening windows and doing various things with it. So if I just open up some start pages here, where can I go that won't cause any grief? Probably nowhere. Right, let's go to Dropbox. Right, so I've got Dropbox open in this window. And I don't think I've got anything out of place, which is rather good. And then maybe I want something else. Maybe I wonder if it'll go to pCloud or if I'm not logged in. Let's try pCloud and see if it'll go there. I don't look like I'm logged in. And there's a sale on as well. Right, we'll just leave that there. So I've got this admin space and I've got these two things in it. I can move these around. And if I wanted to have one that is like the main tab for this workspace, nothing to stop me pinning them either. So all of the features that you're used to, pin tabs, the rest, can exist within a workspace. The next workspace I wanted was for MacBites. So I went back to the top and I said new workspace and I just typed in MacBites. And then I went over here and I went to the emojis. Now, looking at that, the emoji I wanted wasn't there. And I thought, although I can paste any emojis in there, then I'd have to go and get the emoji. But you can actually click in there, and on the Mac you can use Control Command Spacebar, and it will bring up an emoji picker. So the one I wanted for MacBites was this orange one. Initially, I went for what I usually do for MacBites, which was a microphone, but it didn't stand out that well. And I thought, if I'm going to be using these workspaces, I need them to be quickly recognisable for what they are, hence the emojis, which are coloured, and then choosing a good solid emoji. So that was my MacBites one, and I can create that. I'm trying to think what the other one was that I created. Let me have a look. It would have been handy if I made a note of that. But I would probably want a space, another workspace, for Ship 30, because I am in the middle of a cohort. So Ship 30 for 30. And again, don't want it to be this pathetic attempt over here. Want the Ship 30 ship. So if I type in, no, I can't type in there, can I? I need to bring that up and type ship in there. There is the Ship 30 ship. And that gives me 3 distinct places now where I would switch to a workspace and focus on that workspace. So let me think what I would definitely have type share open in there. So this is where you actually publish from. So I just did that earlier. So if we have a look at the published, I'm done for today. Give myself a pat on the back. Come on, you know you want to. Where you go. There we go. So these are all the things that I've published. And then when I'm ready to publish another one, I would create a post, tell it is an atomic essay, get into there, and we are good to go. So I could leave that there open and then focus on something MacBites related by switching from that to MacBites. In MacBites, I am probably, let's go and get the link. Good as. Right, I've got the link open in another browser. And this will be my page for today. So this should be today's show. Fingers crossed it is. Right, looks like it. There we go. Come on, you fold out of the way. There we go. And we've got all the stuff that we need in there, like that. So that's in my MacBites space. I would probably from there also open up my MacBites 2.0 and I would have that at the top. So I would be setting up these workspaces not to clear all the tabs. I would probably be looking to pin these at the top. And then as I'm working, so this is my 2.0, these are our upcoming shows, etc. But as I'm working on a particular show, if I need to research something, these are pin tabs and I can click the links to open in other tabs at the bottom. But I'm still in my MacBites space. I did not expect this to have as much impact on me as it actually has. It's genius. I didn't believe I was distracted by Twitter et al. Having said that, can't leave my YouTube stats alone, can I? So, need to get those out of the way.
Question from Patricia.
Okay.
Creating a workspace, does it save the tabs if I accidentally or purposely close Vivaldi? I seem to lose my settings and open tabs far too often.
It should save it. I have had one issue when it didn't, but it should save it. And you do have options in here. Now, it could be in tabs. The thing is with Vivaldi, you can change everything and anything. So there's so much in here, I can't actually say where it is. Here you go. So if you've got pinned tabs, it doesn't close the pinned tabs. You have complete control over what happens with the tabs. You can even have it prompt you, which I think is in general, to confirm that you do actually want to quit. And then when you look in here, start up with, what do you want it to start with? I want it to start with everything that it had open in the last session. So if it does crash, it should reopen with everything that you've already got. The one crash I had that was catastrophic, I'd installed 6.0 and literally it was within like 20 minutes of it coming out. And when it crashed, I retained the workspaces. So all of my workspaces were here, but my tabs weren't. But they brought an update out within like an hour that fixed that. So make sure your preferences are set right and you shouldn't lose anything when you close it down and go back into it. The one thing you could do is when you know what you want in your workspaces, you could save all of the open tabs as either bookmarks, a bookmark folder, or a session. And that way you can quickly restore them. So with a session, you would load a session, and with the bookmarks, you would go into your bookmarks and you would hover over the ones you want and then reopen them from there. So you can see my bookmarks are pretty neat and tidy. But I do have like some projects that I'm working on at the moment. So I've got my Ship 30, I've got my Second Brain 17, I've got personal development stuff I'm working on and my YouTube stuff. So I have those bookmarked. I don't actually ever use the bookmarks, I'll be honest. They are there in case of an emergency. So if I lose a tab and I'm like, what was that tab? Then I can go back to the bookmarks. But I very seldom load anything from the bookmarks because they're open all the time. Because you can control the workspaces and have them like basically sleep so they're not taking any processor power away from you. But just check your preferences. There's a million options in there. And there's techniques that you can have to make sure you don't lose anything. So once I decided what was in these things, there's things like, I had a circle page open on Second Brain and I've no idea what the link is. I have no idea. So that's the kind of thing that I would put in my current projects in here. So you can see there's my link to Circle because I have no idea where that would be. So I just add that. And then when I finish that, I would move my BASB 17 into my archives just in case I need it, but it's unlikely. And my archives, I tidy up by date every now and then. So you can see I've just shoved the archives in one folder because I don't want it scrolling off the page and I don't organise the archives at all. Every now and then I will load them into a window and I will use this extension, Copy Tab Info, to just copy the entire links and put them in either a text note or maybe drafts or Obsidian. And that way they're not in my browser clogging that up because it's unlikely I'd ever need them. So I would just archive them off that way. Right, so workspaces. So the idea is that you are able to quickly group tabs that are related to a topic, maybe work, research. You might be looking for holidays, stuff like that. Maybe things you don't want the other half to see. No, I haven't done anything like that, Mike, honestly. Not spent a penny, honestly. And once you've got these things set up, as you can see, I'm going to put my mouse there, not going to move him. But I have set up shortcut keys to move between my workspaces. So there's my admin workspace, and there's my no tabs open workspace. There's Ship 30, and there's MacBites. So I've done that. If we go into how you do that, I don't tend to add shortcuts unless I'm struggling, thinking this is a pain to move the mouse to go and get something. Then I'll make a shortcut. So you have groups of shortcuts in here. You have window, view, tab, page, calendar, mail, workspace, and chains. So workspaces, I thought it would make logical sense to use those square bracket keys, but this time it's Command and Option as far as I'm concerned. And all I'm doing is I'm cycling through them. You could switch to a specific workspace if you wanted. So workspace 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 9. But then I have to remember which is which. So I decided it's fast enough for me to just cycle through them. So that is how I intend to cycle through them. But as far as I'm concerned, they really are a game changer. How I used to do it was I had about 8 to 10 tabs open that were my core tabs. So I'd have my circle thing open. I'd have my ship 30 thing open. I'd have MacBites. I'd have the next show that I'm working on. I'd have my mail and my calendar. Just because I couldn't be bothered opening them up as and when I needed them and then closing and opening them up again, because the problem was they were never in the same place in the sidebar. That's why I pinned them, and then they never moved, and I knew exactly where each and every one was. Workspaces takes it a step further than that, in terms of they are now isolated from each other. So if I don't particularly, I go into ship 30 once a day to ship the thing. I don't actually need those tabs staring me in the face the rest of the day. So workspaces, game changer, as far as I'm concerned. Absolutely love them. Now, if you want to make any changes to them, you can go in here and you can rename, you can delete workspaces, you can copy all the links from a workspace, which is a fantastic way of backing them up. So if I copy the links and we put them, I will use this, which is drafts. Show you in there, it's got the links in there that I've got. So it's copied those links. That isn't the way I do it. I would go down here because I've got these two things in here. And I've got this. And what I would do is click that and say save them as a markdown on ordered list. Or when I go into here and I paste them in, it's copied the lot, hasn't it, out of all of them. Going to need to talk to them about that. But that's normally what it would do. So in this one, if I want MacBites and after hours, I would lose the top one, and it's the next two that I want, and I would just be left with that. That is why that shortcut key is worth its weight in gold. Couldn't actually live without that one, I can assure you. Right, so you can do that with it. So let's get back up here. The other thing you can do with it, apart from renaming and deleting and opening all the links, etc., this is where you can hibernate the space so it's not taking processor cycles away. And if you want to change the icon, you just click on the icon. You can choose another one. So that's what we've got with workspaces. How do we feel about workspaces? Have I sold you on them yet, Mike?
No.
No, that'd be right.
Kim's loving them.
I think if you do more than one thing, that you want to separate, you will absolutely adore them. I think they're fantastic. Best thing ever.
Zimbop's got a question, which is nothing to do with this.
Okay.
He can get channel chops for $15. Is it really worth it? We'll buy it if it's still that relevant.
It's not relevant in terms of the interface that you see today. It's the background theory of blend modes and how they actually work at a very, very base level. So if you are interested in that kind of stuff, you'll probably enjoy it. Other than that, you'll probably think this is far too technical and a waste of time. So it really depends if you want to understand the maths of blend modes or not. But £15 is a bargain because you could sell it for more than that. So you could buy it, read it, and then if you don't like it, Jammy might be interested. There you go. Set up our own little private eBay here.
There's a question here from Patricia.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's about workspaces.
Yeah.
How to hibernate them.
As you saw, all you need to do is to click on it. And as you right-click on one of the ones that isn't active, you get the option to hibernate it. So hibernate means the pages stop automatically reloading and updating and basically pulling on your system power that you've got. I don't think I've ever done that. I mean, I can have upwards of about 100 odd pages open when I'm doing research. I try not to, obviously, but I have, and it hasn't slowed down. Obviously, Google Chrome does, greatly. But I've not had that problem with Vivaldi, but that is how you do it. Do we have anything else?
No, but Zimbop's ordered that book.
There you go, you see. The idea of selling it for 10 times the price. Sell it to Amazon. They've only got one and it's £154. Right. So that was good as far as it went, wasn't it? An extra thing to think about with workspaces. What they did was basically, you have the option here to move a tab. And you can move it to a new window. That's what it used to be. But you can see that there is workspace. So you can move the pages between your workspaces using the right click. That was the menu they left in, and it didn't do anything. And we were all curious. The other way to manage this, and in a way it's a bit weird that they released these two things separately. Sorry if I'm making you feel tired. You see a big yawn there, dear. Not as thrilled about Vivaldi as I am, or Kim, let's just say that. Right, the other thing you can do is if you bring it in your Windows panel, you can see all of the tabs. So what we're actually looking at here, if you remember, it used to be the window panel, and it got updated to be the Windows panel. Right, clearly we now know where they were going. But this top one is not a saved workspace. It's just pages that you may have open. This one is my admin space, which had a pinned tab for Dropbox and pCloud open. This one was MacBites, and I have 2 pinned tabs in there. And this was my Ship 31, where I just have the TypeShare editor open. And I could pin that if I wanted. Now from here, you could move things about. So if I decided to move that down to there, it's magically appeared in here and I can take it back up to there. And you can see not only is it putting it in there, but it's still a pinned tab as well. So I think this Windows menu is now way more useful than it was before, because I can now not only juggle tabs between windows, when I loathed having different windows. I could never work out which one I was in. Now I can move them between workspaces and ignore windows completely. So I think that is another huge benefit to managing these workspaces as well. Okay, so let's get rid of that. And it doesn't really matter where we are for the rest of this. Right, another thing they've done is make the themes more customizable. So when you go into here, you have your appearance, but themes is like the look of it. So if you remember, I fought with this for ages. I think this is the default one, which was kind of blue. And it wasn't bad. It was certainly better than that. Oh my. That was just nuclear winter. And when the top goes red into the bargain, which it isn't doing at the moment, is it? Oh, probably because it's on that kind of page. But if it was on a standard page, there you go. Yeah, nice. Not. A little bit too bright for me, that one. So I went into the themes and I had to play around. There are some that aren't bad at all. That's a new one, which isn't bad. The hot pink, no, that got the bum's rush, I'm afraid. And things like Purple Rain and Beach, no, just too bright. Even the blueprint one was too bright because of the top of it. So what I did was I made Midnight Orange. And I tweaked and tweaked and tweaked at it. Now, we had the ability to create a theme, but it was only for you. You know, you made the theme and it was on this machine. You have an editor to edit the theme. And this is where I went in and named it. And I put all of the colours in. And initially, I think we only had colours. And there was no way to export them. So I took a screenshot. And that was my documentation if it crashed and burnt. If I needed to recreate it, I had this screenshot. Then they added the ability that you could export your theme. So I could put this out. So let's put it on the desktop as Midnight Orange. And this one is actually version 6. So, oh dear me. Orange. Oh, God, what am I doing? Where are we? Right, third time lucky. Right, Midnight Orange 6.0, saved. But they've added more since. So you can change these colours. You can specify backgrounds. And there was settings. And you could from here, there was all kinds of magic went on with the themes. You can even integrate them with your Philips Hue bulbs if you want. But the magic, the absolute magic that they have added is the ability to change the icons. Trust me on this. It's fabulous. Right, I will. I've already edited one of these, but what we'll do is I will go back into the library and I'll choose the dark one here, right, so you can see. If we look up here, so we are looking at that ugly monstrosity. That ugly monstrosity is actually an improvement on the original ugly monstrosity, which is the extensions, the plugins. Your extensions icon. It used to be a subtle downward pointing triangle. A little bit, I guess, like this one. So because of that, they changed it and they made it a solid jigsaw piece. And I was so incensed by it. I was so offended by it. I added them on Twitter and said, can you at least make this an option? Never even got a reply. Thanks for that. This was when it happened, which was about 6-8 months ago. So I just had to put up with it after that, unless I wanted to hack the installation, which is probably not a good idea. So when they released this one, I instantly noticed that instead of it being a solid jigsaw piece, it's now just an outline. Just an outline. So if we go in to edit this and we go to the icons, we have a list of the icons in the current theme. So I thought, oh, obviously you can change things like the back button and the forward button and the rewind. And I thought, I bet you can't change the extensions. Oh, yes, you can. The first thing I did. I don't know why it offends me so much, but it does. And these things, I must accept that and go with it. I mean, I'd accepted it and decided not to fight it, but, given the chance to get rid of it, oh, you bet. You bet. So, how did I do that? Right, let's go back to the library and make my theme active. Look, subtle triangle. Life is good. I know it's a small thing, but it's just made me a very happy lady. And you want me a very happy lady. Right, so I went into the editor. I went to the icons, I went to the current theme icons list, and I put my own in. That's what I did with it. So I'm going to remove it so you can see ugly monstrosity. Is it just me or is that an ugly monstrosity? Tell me it's an ugly monstrosity. So I will show you how I did this, and there's a template as well if you want it. Right, it tells you that the icon needs to fit in 28 by 28 pixels. But it also explains, and there's a link for this that Mike can share with you. Let me see. Oh, hang on. Why aren't my links in there? I'll put the links in the description afterwards. But it gives you a little bit more instruction, which is, not only does it need to fit into 28 pixels, which isn't much, but it needs to have a border around it, unless you want the icons to look a bit crowded. So if you look at the spacing that we have with these icons, there's actually quite a big gap. I have seen some people make them 28 and it does look a bit crowded. So I needed to create an icon to replace that one. So I'm going to go back into the library there and get rid of that. So that's what I was facing yesterday and it had to go. It totally had to go, trust me. So how I did that. I went into Affinity Designer, Vivaldi icons, right, and this was what I did. I created, you can't see anything, don't panic, it is there. Right, I created an artboard that was 28 pixels before we started. Although I have never ever before had a need for margins, I added some margins to my document, which was 6 points inwards, which gives me this blue area. And that is where I was designing my icon. My icon is just a triangle. You can't see it because it's white. So that's what I put the background on so you can actually see it. And although I did have more space, I could have made it bigger. I actually wanted it to be really subtle. I know what that button's for. I don't need bells, whistles and a jigsaw to tell me. So I actually tried it the full width of the spacing that I had, which was the margins here, and decided it didn't need to be that big. So I took it down a little bit more. I rounded the corners so it matched the rounded corner icons from Vivaldi. But it could have been simpler. So that is your triangle. It didn't have a stroke on it, so put a stroke on it. And while the default might have been, good grief, which one was it? Did I change it that much? Yeah, so it's very pointed. I made it more rounded, and then all I did was flip it over, holding the shift key, which made it 180 degrees. And that's it. That is all I did with it. Right, at that point, I was having this as like a background, so that is actually my background. Still spelling things okay. Right, that was just while I was working because I needed to visualise what that would look like. So I actually captured the colour of Vivaldi just to check it. And then when it came to exporting it, I turned that off. Went into the export persona and exported it from there. It either needs to be a PNG or an SVG. An SVG is vector, so I figured it would scale better. An SVG should probably be a little bit smaller as well because all it is a list of instructions in a text file. So I went for SVG and I exported it. Right, hopefully that is somewhere now where I can drag it back in. Let's have a look. You can't see it in the preview because again it's white, but there it is. So that was what I did in Designer. You could do that in absolutely anything. And back in here, I needed to go into the preferences again, and I needed to go into the themes, go into my theme with the editor, go into the icons and find the offending icon, which was this one, the extensions one. There we go. Right. I just need to drag it into that area. So as I hover over that, you can see it goes much darker. Right, what I have got in here are the files. So that's my extensions file. This is my version 5 of Midnight Orange, and this is my version 6. So with my file there, I just need to take that up there because it starts jiggling and I can drop it, and that's it. That is all there is to that. It instantly puts it up here. I might make that even more subtle. Just have 1 pixel in the middle or something. I just really didn't like the other one, I can assure you. So what you've got in here, you can change all of these if you want, or as many as you like. I don't think I find any of the others quite as offensive as I find that one, but that one had to go. Trust me on that. So that was how I did it. So I stuck with the instructions that they gave about the 28 pixels, and I made it a light colour because I always use the dark thing. I've no idea what it would look like in light. I don't care. It's part of my theme. Though if I change the theme to go to a lighter theme, it would use the buttons from there. So there is a competition running at the moment. It's a bit like Nottingham Forest, isn't it? For who can design the best icons. So when you click on Get More Themes, it takes you out here, and this is the Great Custom Icons Contest. So you can get more details in that. I don't know how much they're giving you. Hopefully more than £25, unless it's just for the glory. Contest details. How do you enter? What's in it? Right, let's have a look. Oh, a portable Bluetooth speaker. There you go. And Vivaldi goodies. You're not even getting the £25. But that is what they're running for that. But going back to the themes page, if you look under here, there are a range of themes. And the newer ones are taking advantage of the icons. And so if you look at like this one here, this neon glow, the back icon, it looks more sci-fi than some of the others. Now, there is a way here. Let me see how I did this before. Yeah, was it browse the themes? I don't think I browsed the themes, but you never know. It could have been. Let's have a look. Oh, Windows 95. Who wouldn't want a Windows 95 browser? Oh, that's bad, isn't it? But by looking at this, it gives you a preview of it, and you can download and install it. But it also now shows you the icons. So every theme that has custom icons is showing them there on the right hand side of the definition. So I guess if you wanted to, take inspiration from some of these others, that is definitely Windows 95, isn't it? Oh, that takes me back. You can do that. Now, in the themes, there was in here, you can search for themes with custom icons. So these are all the themes at the moment that have custom icons, and some of these are absolutely huge. Some are more subtle. I don't think there's any quite as subtle as mine, which if I could get away with 1 pixel, I would. Some have got coloured icons, some are outline icons, some really fit the theme, like a neon 80s theme. But what I think we're at the point of whatever look you would like, you could probably achieve it now. So I think the icons they are more of a nice to have, more than a nice to have for me, because I didn't like the icon that was there. But I guess for most people, the look of it is secondary to the functionality of it. But I think this update is a really, really good update. One of the previous updates brought in the mail, the calendar and the contacts, and it never worked for me. It didn't work properly with certain Google accounts, and mine's an enterprise account and it never worked. So while it maybe would have been nice, it was something that I just totally turned off. The updates this time have been perfect for me. So maybe that's why the game changer. But let me know in the chat, what do you guys think? Do we have any questions, Mike?
We don't have any questions.
Oh, maybe people aren't using Vivaldi, but I got feedback from people that indeed they were using Vivaldi and they love Vivaldi. And my point is Vivaldi is just getting better and better.
Patricia loves Vivaldi.
It is such a good browser. It really is. I mean, obviously, I don't think it would be anything. I don't think I could replace everything that I could do in Chrome with something like Firefox, because there's so many extensions that I want that just don't work. But Vivaldi, with it being Chrome-based, it does. So it's like having Chrome, but better. Right, let me have a look here. So I've got that template. If you're interested in that, let me know. Where's my
Carol
window?
says she loves Vivaldi.
Vivaldi is very, very good. It is very, very good, got to admit. What else did we have? No, I think that's it. Those are the things that really floated my boat. There is an ability to drag and drop tabs into emails. So if you are using the email component of it, if you are, let me know in the chat, because I can't, not unless I get a different email address. But you can drag and drop tabs in and it will add the links in. So it's all about productivity with this update, is what I would say. But when I lost my workspaces, I was lost. And when I deleted them tonight before I did the demo, I'm like, I don't want to lose my workspaces, because they are such a time saver and it enables focus. So I always found when I was uploading my Ship 30 essay at 5 to midnight, don't giggle, Carol. It was always 5 to midnight, trust me. When I was doing it, I would get annoyed that I had these 10 pin tabs. Now I just switched to the Ship 30 space and I literally have 2. One's the essay in Notion and the other is TypeShare, and I'm posting it. And then when I've posted it and I click on the links for Twitter and wherever it's going, those tabs open up as well, but I've still only got no more than like 4 tabs, 5 absolute tops, and I've not got my email pinging and all the rest of it just distracting you. So that, and the fact that I have got rid of that pug ugly icon, I am a happy girl this week. I'm a very happy girl. Right, if we got no more questions on that.
Patricia said, I'd appreciate the template. I wonder if you would share a YouTube channel template. I need to redo my channel and it would save me loads of time reoriented to what is new from 2 years ago.
That's the trouble, isn't it? Every 5 minutes they change it. I've got one that I demonstrated a while back. I'd have to check that it's still up to date. So give me a little time to sort that out. And I will share that. I'll put the link in the description. Might put a note to put the link in the description. Okay, so let me get rid of these things that I don't need. Like, why is my email open? I've no idea. And we will move on to the next one. So let's get this out of the way. Loving my browser now. Absolutely loving it. One thing I hadn't checked, which might be worth our while checking, is in here, which is the definition of the theme. Yes, that's what I was thinking. If you don't change the icons, the entire theme is a JSON file. So it's just a text file. if you add any custom icons, they are included in there as well. So if you want my theme, I'll share my theme as well. So let me know. Right, let's head off in here. Farrago. Has anybody even heard of Farrago? Do you know what Farrago means, Mike?
No idea.
A hodgepodge. A mismatch of things. That doesn't tell you a darn thing, though, does it? So let's get straight in and have a look at it. Right, as you know, we have a radio station. We have more than one radio station. We have the ability and the necessity, let's move this out of the way, to play individual little clips. So this is Farrago. This is a brand new release, version 2. Farrago itself has been around since 2018. It is a cart system. So if you've ever seen any footage from radio stations back in the 70s, you'll remember this, won't you, at Piccadilly?
Yeah.
They used to have a physical cart on wheels, and it used to go from studio to studio. And what was in it was cartridges, like the old 8-track, that you would shove in. You know, they would have written on what they were. You'd shove in and you press play. And then you would extract it, because then you would need to play something else. So anytime you hear a jingle or anything like that, that's a cart system. So I was fascinated when I went to visit the radio station. I went to visit the radio station in 1982. Obviously, I was a mere child. I was at school. But I'd won a competition. I'd won the England captain's shirt from the World Cup. And I went down there to collect it, and there I am staring through the windows at the studio, and they're wheeling these carts around. And I just find it fascinating that today I'm sat here with a virtual cart. And I can probably do more than they could do back in the day. So what we're looking at is the interface.
There's 2 jingles on Piccadilly I can think of.
Do you know, I've actually got those here, but I don't think I can play them because of copyright.
Ah.
Let me see, did I put those in? I've got Peter B as well, but I better not play that.
That's
one of Mike's favourites. It was in here, I swear it was. But what you've got on the left-hand side, you have sets. So just like a musician plays a set, each of these is a set of related clips. So you'll notice some of these. You'll be aware of these if you've been to a MacBites Live, or even sometimes we use them on MacBites. But each of these is a separate audio file. So the top one, opening titles, is the MacBites opening titles. And the second one is the credits. The ones in green are standard stuff that we use. Best not use the Switcher's Corner one, eh? Not on YouTube. So these are things that we use. Then we've got Siri saying, follow me. We've got the bleep. And all of these in purple tends to be things that we reuse on MacBites. Right down to the Goombay Dance Band, one of Mike's favourites. I've also got a couple of proper shows in here. So I've got 159 in there. That's the entire show. So you can see that is 48 minutes. When we premiere a MacBites, that's how we do it. I drag and drop it into here. So here's my MacBites shows. I drag and drop them into there. And then at showtime, I will just double click it and it will start playing. So each of these are totally separate collections of sound clips. They could be full shows, or they could literally be like a 2-second stinger. That's the MacBites one that we actually use. This is where I put the MacBites shows. You remember Brooklyn's by Request? Here are our stingers. So do you think I'd get away with Trio or Tenuous? I might get away with Tenuous.
Yeah.
Right, so we're in the middle of a Brooklyn show, and we've got a link for one of our trios that is Tenuous. And we'd be talking about it, and then, you know, Mike and I would be aware of when the stinger needed to be played, and we literally, you'd speak up to the point that you double click it. And then when you double click it, that plays, and you are then quiet like this.
Tenuous. The link is so tenuous.
And straight away, I've got a visual that it's played, and I'm done, and then I can come in and I can speak. So as I sit here now, I can't hear that at all. Hopefully, you guys will hear that. You're going to give me a thumbs up that you could actually hear that.
When I hear it.
We've got that 20-second gap.
Yeah, I can
Right.
hear it.
So I can't hear it. I'm working visually. But when I look at the waveform on there, you know, I can tell when it's over, the rest of it. Everything I need is in there. I just need to find the right stinger. So that one's in a list. There they are, Mike. Look, Piccadilly Radio, It's a Goal, and oh no. But I daren't play it because it's probably copyright. But everything that we've used, like Breakfast at Bramley's and Fireworks on the 4th of July, I hope this is bringing back good memories, Kim, is in there, and that is how I was accessing it.
The oh no's not bringing good back memories.
Well, unless it was a derby and then you never knew. You were having a heart attack before they actually told you what had gone on. The other way that I actually use this, we have a DJ system that includes all the music, except some of the stuff that we would get asked for because it was as old as the hills. So if there were some clips, some songs, requests that weren't covered, I would create a set for every week. And you can see these work backwards from the last show. That was the 27th of November 2021. So in there we had, I love the spelling on that, but Friends and Neighbours, and Wasn't That a Party? The week before we had Lisa, so this is one of our listeners who's a fantastic singer who was doing Whitney Houston, so that was always there available in case anybody requested it. This was Lisa's dad, who is also a singer, who had recorded his own version of Skyfall, and people requested that. And other stuff like these, some of these I know, some I don't. I mean, Lee Marvin, I think that must have been a joke week, that. But each of these, that one was obviously shopping, and that could have, happy that was, because only when I laugh is I'm HAPPY. So these were all for individual shows, and then I would archive these off, obviously, otherwise I'd end up with hundreds in here. They do give you a sample to get going with, like this. So these are some sound effects that they've included, like foghorns and breaking glass and stuff. This is a list, and this is what they look like in grid mode. So you get to choose whether you want these clips in grid mode or a list. If you have them in grid mode, you are now able, so let's get like that one, you are now able in here to add an emoji to it. So under here, this is all the information about this clip. So I'd go to the emoji, and if it's a trombone, you'd think they'd have a trombone, wouldn't you? Let's try music and see what they've got. There you go, that'll do. I know it's not a trombone, but it'll do. It's a trumpet. It's near enough. And that puts that in the middle of it. So, you know, if the emojis fit, that's kind of cool, isn't it? New features with this version is the ability to edit these clips as well. So we'll come on to that. But this bit in the middle is your canvas where you have a grid or you have a list. Now, the list is perfect if you've got somebody explaining why they've requested it or who the song is for. You can literally paste that in there. So you can put your clip in here that they want, the music, and you can put their request next to it. And then you're not juggling multiple screens. So this was one of the apps that was used all the way through those shows. But obviously this is version 2, not version 1. So what I'll show you is, in this, I'll show you how to make a new set before we get any further. Right, you can create a new set or you can create a smart set. Now a set is where you manually create it, and that's what I've done up to now because smart sets are brand new. But you could create a smart set that would pull together all of the MacBite shows, irrespective of what set they were in. But I'm going to create a new set here. So let's say that this one is going to be my WWDC set. So WWDC 2023. Right, I'd put some information in there. Once you've got your sounds in there, you can lock the set. And if you're sharing it with people, you can also password protect it. But the kind of stuff that I would do with this is I would bring in clips. So I've got an old clip that we've done because we've not done this yet. But this was one from 2019. As you can see, it says opening sketch and it's 37 seconds. So this is exactly how I would go about doing it. So in my WWDC thing, I would be thinking it would be a good idea to add that in there and possibly credits in there as well. Right, and I would have this over here. I would put this I would either leave that there because of the colour coding, or I would move it to the end depending on what I wanted to do. So this is going to be a very brief show. But this was the opening sketch. So how the show actually ran was I ran clip 1, the opening titles, and I went straight into clip 2. And then Mike and I would start talking. So this is what you would have heard.
Good evening, MacBiters.
Hello, folks. The true stars of the show have arrived.
What she said, with big brass knobs on.
So what's everyone hoping for from the great MacBites WWDC show today?
Well, I for one am hoping that we get a rest sometime soon. This 24 hours a day, 7 days a week thing is killing me, and we're not even halfway through the first week yet.
You need to up your game, Suri.
Shut up, woman, or I'll order a truckload of games demos from Timmy, and you know how she loves those.
She'd much rather see Craig.
Now, don't start that kind of funny business or you'll set Mike off.
Then, of course, you would have been subjected to Mike and I. At the end of the show, we would have played the outro credits, which I won't bother with because it's another 20 seconds. But that is how it was working. And we will build a show up like that. So any clip that we either know we're going to use or may need to use, we would add in ahead of time and then play them through on the day. Now, what they've added is a different ability. So I'm going to add in another clip here, which you can see it says opening sketch needs edit. So we have a gap at the beginning and we have a gap at the end. Now you may think, well, that's not a huge deal, but it is. It's 5 seconds at the beginning and 5 seconds at the end. So if I start to play this, if I'm speaking and I think, and then we need to go into the Siri sketch, it's very difficult. You'd think you could do it, but trust me, it'd be very difficult to fill 5 seconds in a way that you finish speaking what you're saying just as Siri starts. So I would maybe start to play it and then carry on speaking a bit, and then I've got to really work out when Siri's coming in.
Good evening, MacBiters.
Hello, folks. The true stars.
That probably wasn't bad, but trust me, I don't need the overhead of thinking about that. I need this where I double click on it and it plays. That's it. So one of the abilities that they've added is the ability to edit your clips. So I have this clip here. There is an edit button underneath it. When I open that, it shows you that clip there. If you need to see that a bit bigger, you can stretch this out. So you could take that as big as you need. And what you're looking at doing is marking the in and the out, or cropping a selection, so getting rid of it. So if we took that there, we could remove that. Let's have a look how long that is.
Good evening, MacBiters.
That's now under a second, so that's great. And at this end, it's less of an issue at the end as long as it's complete silence, except if you have got this automatically playing in tune with something else. So if I've got 3 clips, I do not want a gap of 5 seconds because there will be dead air for 5 seconds while it plays through. So it is worth getting rid of the one at the end as well. If you want to be more precise, you can zoom in there. So I am leaving enough that it doesn't sound like it's cut off, but I'm going to remove it. And then I'm going to save it. And now I've edited that. So while you could edit this in another audio app, at the point, usually on a Monday afternoon of WWDC, I'm throwing things into here. And this is when I find out that I've got a gap or something. And I can now edit it in here, which is fantastic. Certain things you might want playing in the background permanently. So if we look at some of the stuff that we've got in here, like crowd sounds. Do we have crowd sounds? Arena crowd cheer. I think there are some sample ones in here. Street ambience, rain. Notice they have a different icon on them. All of these are looping. So this crowd one here, once it's finished, it will go back to the beginning. It will carry on playing. While that's playing, you can be playing something else. So literally I could have that one playing and then start to play the intro or play the Siri clip, and you can configure that. So if we go back to ours and say we wanted this one on a loop, you can go in here and just toggle that on and that will now play in a loop. obviously with that one, we don't particularly want it. You can also in here put some notes in, which is great when you're like, what did I do with that and why am I doing it? So it's a bit niche, but if you had a need for that, so the need would be live podcasting, live streaming, audio clips supporting your live streaming. If you record your podcast live, which we do, but I do tend to put this in post. But if you were recording a podcast live, then again, you could play this through as a sound source, and then you wouldn't need to edit in post later. So bit niche, but incredibly useful. So as I say, how we would do that, we tend to sit with the MacBites one, and we tend to have a board for when there is an Apple event, which there hasn't been for a long time, has there?
Yeah.
Last September, an Apple event. And that way we can have things said as and when we need to. So I did have one board, which I've obviously taken away, and I'd got lots of Siri clips lined up saying hello to everybody. So as like Graham came in, it said, how are the bears, Graham? So we had all of those lined up. So this is what Siri would say.
And you can follow me at twitter.com/MacBitesSiri.
And it's just handy to have them there. I've left certain things in here. So there was my birthday in Marooned in 2021. There was the finale song from Tracy. That one's still in there. There's our happy birthday stingers. We use Fiesta a lot, don't we, Mike? That's usually when I'm thrilled with something. So it's a bit dusty in the Apple world. It's used elsewhere. And all the things that we use. Vuvuzela. I'm not actually sure if that is a Vuvuzela or if it's me pretending to be a Vuvuzela. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, ignore it. It's a MacBites thing. But that is Farrago. That's how we use it. It is an amazing app. I think it's about $59. But it really is amazing because if somebody leaves you like a voicemail on Skype and you want to play it in a live show, you've got the thing in Skype, you take the recording out, you put it in here, and you find out it's far too loud. So if you look at this MacBites, by comparison to this record scratch, it's quite loud. But you can have an A volume and a B volume in here. So if we look over here, we have an A and a B. You could actually take that down for an individual clip. So you can even it out a bit, an A and a B volume. It's just amazing. You can also decide with these, each of these, what device they're played on. So if you look at this one, it's saying device, Telestream Audio. Right, the Telestream Audio component was installed with ScreenFlow. I have no idea why that's the default. But I do have a lot of stuff from Loopback. So I've got here 2 monitors, a microphone, lots of things that I actually record from. So I've got loopback pipes, I've got the narrator text-to-speech going on, I've got an otter pipe, I've got 2 sound flowers that are just historic. There's the Telestream audio capture. I can capture Zoom independently in all of my browsers. And that is indicating the device that these things will play on. So you could play them on different devices as well. So if you're using a backup, you could create something in Loopback that would record to 2 devices. That's well advanced, but at least it's there, because if it wasn't there, it could make the difference between being able to use it and not use it. So I don't know what you guys may use that for. Maybe you could tell me, but that's what we use it for. So for live shows, if you come to a MacBites Live, that's how it's happening. That's how the magic is happening. You don't use it much though, do you?
No.
No, it leaves it to me.
Question from Zimbop.
Yeah.
Is my full orchestral MacBites Christmas in there?
Yes, I think it is somewhere. Possibly not this one, because I keep the sets separate. That's the one thing I do find with this, that's all your sets, all your active sets are in a library. You can't load a different set of sets if you're with me. You would have to create a new set and then load the clips into it. I have the clips in Dropbox, so I could take the sets and put them on another machine and the files would be in the same location. But yes, when it was played, that was how it was played. So when we were playing clips in Marooned, in fact, anything that went through Marooned, anything that Siri said, any sound effects, like the Goombase stuff, the songs, Tracy stuff, the birthday stuff, that's how it was played. I mean, you could do it other ways, but this is the way to do it, to be honest. It's a cart system. It's as simple as that. You know, I think kids coming to this today, not being aware, oh, it's a cart system. Why is it called a cart system? Because it used to have wheels. They've never seen it. They can't imagine it. But when you've seen it, which I have, it's like, wow. There was another company. Who was that company? Was it Ambrosia? They made the screen recording software, and then when it went to Lion, they had huge problems trying to get it to work, and in the end, they binned it.
I think it was
Snaps Pro?
Yeah, but when
Snaps
you say
Pro.
Ambrosia, I think rice pudding.
I know you do, Mike. But they also created a wiring system, and I think they had a cart system. But sadly, the fundamental changes that Apple brought in, they disappeared. At the time, this comes from the same people that make Loopback, Rogue Amoeba, the ones who make Audio Hijack. So all of their apps work beautifully together. And all of their apps work beautifully. You could just put a full stop there. So at the time, they didn't.
Pro.
Snaps
Simon.
Pro. Yeah. It was the only one that recorded the screen when I moved to a Mac. Only it recorded the mouse in episodes. It was so jerky. Do you remember it? Oh, it was bad. But I know people who were swearing by that till last year. It actually stopped working last year. But there was no cart system once this other cart system had gone bye-bye. So I was very pleased when they made it and brought it out. So, we got any questions on that?
Nope.
At least now, if you have a need for a radio station, you know how to do that. Right, let's pop that over there. And let's do that. Cos, we're over to you.
Over to me.
Yes, you'd be in a bit of a panic now. Oh, why aren't the slides moving? Come on, there we go.
Right.
Yes, Mike's going to thrill us with the filter function.
Right, tell me when I can start.
When I say so. Right, I've got you keyed up. Right, I'm handing it over to you.
Okay, I'll start. Filter function. Simon will be glad to know that this is also available in Google Spreadsheets. But I'm using Excel for this, and I'm using the Mac version, but it's also available in the Windows version. Okay, filter function. We are not confusing that with the filter feature. So, as I'm sure many of you know, if you click into a block of cells like this and you go to data and you click the filter button, it puts some little drop down arrows on the header row, and then you can use those drop downs to apply a filter. That is not what I'm covering today. The filter function is a function that you type into a cell, and what it allows you to do is to basically take a copy of a set of records, paste them in some predetermined location, but only the ones that match one or more criteria. So as an example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to G4 and I'm going to type in a function there to display only the records from this block of data here, where the flavour is banana. So I'll go to G4 and put equals filter, open brackets. The first parameter is the array, which is usually the entire block. Doesn't have to be, I'll show you an example shortly where it's not. Then a comma, and the second parameter is what you want to include. So in this case, I want to include only the records where flavour equals, banana. So I'll select A2 to A19 equals, and then in double quotes, banana. And that is the filter function at its most simplest. So if I press enter, you can see what it does is it returns exactly what I've asked for. Only the records where we have banana. If I go and edit that, so edit that formula and change that to mint, then it gives us the ones that are mint. If I edit that again and change that to strawberry, if I can spell it, then it gives us strawberry. And it automatically, it's dynamic, so it automatically will give you however many rows are required, whether it's 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows, or whatever it is. Okay, so I will, what I'll do now is put in, I'll just edit this again, and I'll put in Apple. And it comes back with an error. So it's saying I can't find Apple. I can't find anything in here that matches that criteria. So what you can do is, instead of leaving it as calc, we can actually go in and put a third parameter, which is if empty, which basically means if it can't find any matches, put something else in instead. So I'll put in just the word no matches in double quotes, and that's what it comes back with. Now, this time, instead of actually embedding the criteria into the formula, what I'm going to do is have the criteria in H1. So I will edit formula. So instead of having Apple in double quotes, I'll just put H1. So what we're saying now is apply a filter to A1 to D19, bring back only the records where what's in column A matches what's in H1. So if I go and change what's in H1 to mint, it brings back mint. If I change that to peach, it brings back peach, and so on. So it's using that as the parameter to decide what to actually bring back. Okay, so that is one example. I guess that's the most basic example of what the filter function does. And as I said, don't confuse it with the filter feature, where you select a block of cells and you add drop downs, because although that feature is great, it is limited in what it can do. The filter function is much more versatile, much more flexible, and much more powerful, as you'll see as we go through the next few demos. So basically the difference is the filter feature just apply a filter to an existing list, and it will apply the filter to that list. Whereas what I'm showing you now lets you basically store the results somewhere else. In this case, it's here. So let me show you. The next thing, which is how can we have a drop down in H1. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a drop down of all the flavors. Now, one option would be to just copy those flavors manually, paste them over here, sort them alphabetically, and remove the duplicates. And then I've got basically my source for my data validation list, and I will then I'll create a data validation list in H1. So there'll be a drop down which will be connected to this. The problem I've got is that if this list updates or I add a new flavor, it won't update that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a dynamic data validation list. If you're wondering why we need a data validation list, let me just show you. The idea of data validation is that you have a drop down arrow in a cell. You click the drop down arrow, it produces a list, but it's got to get the items for that list from somewhere. So best practice is to store those items in another cell somewhere else, and then the data validation will grab the values from there. So what I'm saying is, instead of me manually creating the data validation list, I'm going to grab it from these values here. And I can do that by using the unique function. So if I go over to M2 and put equals unique and then select that range there, what it will return is a list of items, one instance of each item, so it ignores the duplicates. So it's gone through this list here, picked out one instance of each item and listed them there. The benefit of that is, as I said, if any of these change, it automatically updates that. And if I want these in alphabetical order, I will wrap the unique function in a sort function, like that. So now that's alphabetical. So if I did go and change that to Apple, it adds Apple into that list, as you can see, automatically. So that's the unique function on the sort function. But that's only generating the list to be used for the data validation. If I then go up to H1 and go to data validation, hang on a minute, my machine is just slowing to a crawl. So just bear with me.
Welcome to my world.
Yes.
Mine won't open the Obsidian Vault I'm trying to demo with.
I think a reboot is needed after this. Anyway, it's been doing it since we started, actually. It's been doing it with my browser, but I will soldier on. So I go to H1 and I go to data validation, set that to a list. No, it's just freezing up. I don't know
Slowly.
why. There we go.
Say nice words to it.
And then set the source to that range there. Now, by setting the source to that range there, it's going to give me the items in the list. The problem is, if I add to that list, then it's not going to pick up any extra ones. So what I'm going to do is change the data validation settings for H1, and I'm going to change it to be equals M2 and a hash sign. And that's not a hash sign, is it? It's where's the hash sign?
Option 3.
Option 3, isn't it? I hate option 4 by mistake. So what that means is it means grab everything in the list starting at M2. So as that list in M2 grows, it will automatically expand this. So as I choose, as you can see now, as I choose an item from that drop down, because I've still got the filter function in there, it's just basically creating a filter based on what I select up here. Okay, so that's the first couple of examples. Question from Patricia: do I use Airtable? No, I don't, is the simple answer to that.
There's only so many things you can handle.
Have I ever done tutorials on it? No, I haven't. It's also the simple answer to that. Okay, so let's have a look at another example. All right, over here I have a list of countries. Those are actually the teams that played in the World Cup last year, along with the groups that those teams were in. And what I want to do is I want to split that list up into the appropriate groups. But I don't want to do it manually. So I don't want to grab the 4 countries that were in Group A and copy and paste, grab the countries that were in B and copy and paste. So I can do it with a filter function. So I can go to F2 and put equals filter, open brackets. Now actually, just before I do that, I've clicked back in this data here, and you can see that this data is in a table. We've covered tables many times before. It's basically a named block of data. So in this case, the table is called World Cup. So what I'm going to do is go to F2 and put equals filter, open brackets, type in World Cup square bracket team, because I only want to filter what's in column A, then a comma, and what do I want to include? I want to include where column B equals the letter that's in this case F1 or H1 or J1 or whatever, and you'll see how that works in a minute. So include World Cup square brackets group equals F1. So F1 is the cell with the N in it. There we go. So what that's doing is it is applying a filter using the data in column A. I just happen to have named column A as part of a table called World Cup. So it's using the column heading where the group equals what's in F1. So if I copy that across to there, copy that to there, copy that to there, copy to there, copy to there, copy to there, copy to there, I've very, very quickly got all my groups. And it's done it because what it's doing is it's using the filter function, applying the filter function to column A, using the data in column C where it equals that, or equals that, or equals that, and so on. Now I'll do a similar example. Okay, but I'm just going to change the headings here just to simplify it. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H. So this takes us back to Ladies' Night.
Does it?
Or well, I've changed I've changed the names to protect the innocent.
And
But
the
yes,
guilty.
table plans.
Oh yes, I did 120 of those.
Or it takes us back to any other dinner that we might have been involved in organising. Yeah, this is a list of people who have been invited to a dinner, and we've got the names and we've got what table they're on. So again, I've converted this into a table. The table is called dinner. And what I want to do is I want to quickly generate my table plans where there will be 4 people on each table. So I can use the filter function to do that. Equals filter, open brackets. The array is going to be dinner, square bracket, A, close square bracket, because that is the range that contains the data to be filtered, comma. Include is the criteria itself. These are the cells, these are the rows I want to include, and I want to include the records where dinner, square bracket, table. So in the table column of the table called dinner equals, and in this case F1, because F1, although you can't see it because it's hidden by the editing I'm doing, contains letter A. And there we go. Copy that to there and it picks up B, copy that to there, it picks up C, and so on and so forth. So that is how to very quickly generate a table plan. Okie dokie. Right, I will do one more. Are we okay for time?
Yes, my keyboard's just packed up.
Oh.
Just give me a chance to reboot the keyboard.
Oh, okay. I will do maybe 2 more then.
Do you know, I charged this before we started. It's just got a vendetta against me.
And that reminds me, I didn't check whether mine is charged or not.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
I do everything properly. Mine dies a death. You ignore it, works fine.
Yep. Right. Okay. This one is going to be choosing certain columns as well as choosing certain rows. So what I have here is a list of transactions, not into my bank account, but into Excellent Ice Cream's bank account. So the credits and the debits. And what I want to do is I want to show the credits and the debits in 2 different lists. Now, of course, I could do that manually. I could just copy and paste and then manually filter the lists. But where's the fun in that? Plus, of course, as more transactions occur down here, it won't automatically update. So again, I've created a table. I've created a table for the purpose of expansion, and the table is called transactions. So I'll go over to F3 and put equals filter, open brackets, transactions, which is the name of the table, comma, and the criteria is going to be only the credits. So the criteria is going to be transactions, square brackets, type, equals CR. close brackets. Now either my keyboard's not packed up. My machine is just lagging. There we go. Okay. So what that's done is that has generated the date, the amount, but it's also pulled out the credit from this column, because what it's done is it's that column, and that column. But it has only given us the CRs. But I don't want to include that column. So what I will do is I will edit the formula and I'll wrap the whole filter function inside a new function, fairly new in Excel. It's also in Google Sheets, which is called choose cols. So choose cols, open brackets. That is the range I want it to look at. Basically the filtered list from columns A, B and C. Then a comma, and then 1, 2. What that means is, it means pull out the filtered list from columns A, B and C, but only display the data from column A and column B. Like that. If I only wanted to display the data from column A and column C, I would put 1, 3. And that is grabbing the first column and the third column. So the choose cols function is really handy, because it allows you to choose which columns you want to display. Okay, so are you ready, or do you want...
I'm about to share something, so you'll have to wait.
Oh, okay then.
Kim's saying that you're a party animal.
Am I a party animal?
Well, I said you're a party animal.
Oh, okay.
And I've got just the perfect photo to prove the
really?
point.
I didn't realise I was a party animal.
Oh, you're my party animal, of course you are. Right, let me see if I can get this link in here. Be dangerous, wouldn't it, to paste a link in without trying it? But if I try it, I'll probably break something. No, I must try it.
You never know what might be at the other end of the link.
Oh, I do. There you are. It's you and Stuart. There you go. Proving that he is a party animal. There's the link. Where you go.
Where's the link? Oh, there's the link.
There's the link. Go and have a look.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
See?
Yeah.
Party animal.
Party animal. Right. Okay. Do we have any other questions? Or are we just talking about party animal?
I can't see the chat now, so you're...
No, I'm looking at the chat. I don't see any other questions.
Right, we're going to the freebies then.
I will pass back to you.
I've got a classic freebie this week. I couldn't not use this one. I did say to Mike, spot the deliberate mistake. Let's see who spots the deliberate mistake with this first. Right. It's a PowerPoint template. It's actually quite nice. It's for a lookbook. If you're going to call something a lookbook, what must you not do? Now, don't spoil it, Mike, because you know. Mike did spot it in the end. The link's in there if you want to copy and paste that in.
I'm doing it now.
Who has spotted it? Because as I say, I can't see the chat. That was silly of me, wasn't it? Look on the left. Look on the left.
Oh, I've spotted it.
Yeah, I know, because you've seen it before. Oh, crying out loud.
Peter spotted it.
Yes. Don't lose the K from your lookbook. But it's a nice template. So download your template. Right. Obsidian. We are moving on to something that causes people a lot of concern. I don't know why it causes people a lot of concern, because it's personal knowledge management and it's personal to you and you can do whatever you like. But who has heard of MOCs? It stands for maps of content, and it's a concept that's been kicking around for at least 2 years in the PKM space. A lot of people attribute it to Nick Milo of Linking Your Thinking. But apparently, I read a comment on a YouTube video that said that Nick himself has given credit to somebody else. A guy called, well, it's spelt lion. I presume it's Leon. I don't know. I've traced it back as far as Nick Milo. But in essence, if you think about standard note-taking, so let's think about a physical notebook. How do you find anything in a physical notebook from 2 years ago? Now, I always make reference to the book I have on the shelf from 2006 to 2007. And how I used to work with it, it was an A4 notebook, spiral bound. It had sections in it, and you could move, I think you could move the tabs. And every time I went to a user group meeting or I watched a session, I just turned to the next blank page, put the title and the date, and moved on. At the beginning of this notebook, at the very first page, I kept the first page or two to create an index. I then bought a stamp and I stamped a page number on each page. And that index was my map of content. It was a map of content of that notebook. Obviously, if you go digital, with that map of content, it was based on the page number. It was sequential. Unless I wanted to leave it till the very end and then go through the notebook and think, right, well, let me group that bit together and group that bit together. And then my index or my map of content would have looked very different. As we've moved to digital tools, a map of content can pretty much mean whatever you want it to mean. Nick Milo has quite a high level for what a map of content is. And for him, it's where the thinking happens. A lot of people, though, have sat down and watched it and the map of content, right, and they've created what is an index. It's nothing clever, it's nothing fancy, it's nothing to do with thinking, it's nothing to do with developing the thoughts in a particular area. It's just a list. So a map of content can mean different things to different people. We have actually already created some maps of content, or what some people would have considered to be maps of content, possibly without even knowing it. So this week, I'm going to look at top-down and bottom-up maps of content, and they're going to be text-based and how we could create them. Next week, moving on to a different type of map of content entirely, which may or may not be a traditional map of content. I would suggest it myself, it's not. But let's see what we can do. So what I've got here is our demo vault. This is probably... you remember last week when we did sync and I moved it to iCloud? It's not worked right since. This is why I pay for Obsidian Sync. But I finally got it open. So what I've got here, I've got a page open which is all about macOS Cheetah. And I have another page open that we've just said a history of Mac operating systems. This page on the left was there to illustrate inserting elements of content from one file to another, transclusion. So what we did with this one, at the top, you can see we have the exclamation mark and we have a link to the Cheetah page, and it is bringing in all of this Cheetah page, all of the content into this file. This file could be considered to be a map of content because it's referencing Cheetah, it's referencing Puma, and Jaguar, and we could have carried on. But this was to demonstrate transclusion. So what I'm going to do up there is put transclusion, because I may want another history of Mac operating systems that is something else. So let's get a completely new page and lose that one. And we will have this, a history of Mac operating systems. But let's say that this is a map of content. So the idea of it is, if you think about Evernote and OneNote, OneNote's great with the physicality. Anything below the fold's likely to get lost. Evernote can make maps of content. So if you are using Evernote, you can make a map of content. It's probably just not quite the same. Maps of content tend to be related to Obsidian. If somebody says a map of content, 95% chance they're using Obsidian. All it is to create a jump-off point to your content. So imagine that you're sat there, and some of you have probably felt like this with Obsidian. I've made a note. Where did it go? Probably in the inbox. Unless you moved it, probably in the inbox. Like this. No organisation there. Doesn't really need it. I do organise mine, but that's me. You might want to search for it. You could open it with Command and P. So let's imagine that I'm looking for something to do with macOS. I could Command and P, not Command and P, Command and O. Hang on, there we go. And what I'm doing here is, if I start to type in, like macOS, you can see it's filtering. And it's filtering for anything that kind of matches what I've typed in, even though some of them are Mac OS with a space and an X in there, which we've commented on before. This would then enable me, if I'm thinking lion, when was lion there? Right? I can open this up and I can get to that page. And a lot of people struggle along like that. But the problem with that is, although you have backlinks, so if we go down to the backlinks, we haven't actually got any in there, but you have backlinks if you've linked to something. You don't have an overall picture of your content. So if I'm doing some research on TabbyCat, which is our code name for whatever the next version of macOS is, I may want to refer back to previous ones. And I've noticed that every year coming up to WWDC, that's what I'm doing. When was Lion released? When was this released? When was that released? So it would be a good starting point if I didn't have to search for the notes. So at a very, very basic level, some people treat maps of content as just an index. We'll start with that and then we'll improve on it. I don't get wound up about what people call it. If you want to call it a map of content, that's absolutely fine. If I want to call it a banana, I will do. So I don't get wound up with the names, but some people do. So some people would say that's not a map of content, it's an index. Whatever. It's something that helps you guide your way through your notes. So we already know that I have created this. And let's say that I'm preparing for WWDC 2023. If all I want is a list of the other OSs, so let's go to the inbox and have a look down here. And you can see I've got these OSs. If I just want a list, so previous versions, stick a heading in there and then decide I'm going to start to bring these in. Then all I need to do is drag and drop. And what it's brought in is the square brackets and the page, and if I click on there, it will go to the page. Simple as that. If I then want to reference Puma, I can do the same. That's obviously going to be a long-winded way of doing it, so let's not do that. But if it's just 1 or 2 pages, that is a perfectly adequate way of doing it. But I'm clicking over here for one particular reason. And that is, if I'm in this page, it doesn't work as well. So I've got 2 pages side by side, doesn't really matter which is which. But I've done that because if I try and do it from here, if I want to select the first one all the way down to LCAP, in fact, no further than that, isn't it? I don't know why I've got a MacBites in the middle of there. But all the way down to Ventura, I'm going to have a problem with that because as soon as I click on the first one, it loads it in. So I lose my focus on that page. So I've opened that page over there so I can select that. I will select, I'm holding the shift key down and I'm selecting all the way down to Ventura with the MacBites in the middle and dragging and dropping that in there. And that is the most basic map of content you could create. Obviously we don't need the MacBites one, but it's simple enough to delete it. And then I've got all my content. And it would make more sense for readability if they were bullet points. So I will make them bullet points. That is the most basic map of content. That's not what Nick Milo means by map of content, because there's no context to it, except for the words previous versions. But you know, that might be all you need. If I just need that, that's great. You could extend that. And before I look at extending it, what we've got here is a bottom-up way of working in one respect and a top-down way of working in another. So top-down and bottom-up are phrases that you would find in Zonka Aaron's How to Take Smart Notes. I've already got the notes in here. So I'm working bottom up. I've already got those notes. So I'm trying to add sense to those notes by adding a map of content, by adding a map to my content so I know what I've got. And likewise, if there was nothing in there for El Capitan, then I could say, I need to research that. And I would then go off and get the information that I need for that. Right. If I was writing this completely from scratch, that would be, I know where I'm going, I'm at the top level, and I know what I need. I need information about all of these operating systems. So then I head out to find that information. So they're just two different ways of working. As it happens here, I do have some information. Now, a true map of content, and you're not limited to one map of content for the history of macOS either. You can have as many as you like. So for this one, where I've got a history of the operating systems, that might be enough. It means if I ever want to look this up, I can just say history of macOS and it will find it and it will give me that. It's a pretty basic index, but it would give me that. But I might want something different where I do want that information or access to that information, but I maybe want it in a different way. So I could create another page. So I'm going to put this one in there. It isn't particularly a history of macOS. This one is WWDC 2023. And just so I know, I'm going to put in it that it's a map of content as well. Right, what's likely to come at WWDC? Well, what do we know about it so far? Right, I would probably put in some metadata at the top. I would put it in a call out, but let's not play around. We know the date. So the date is going to be the 5th of June. Do I type 5th of June? No, because that won't link it to the 5th of June. But if I put the square brackets in and we go to 5th of June, then it will. What I mean by that is I've now linked the fact that I'm writing something about WWDC. This is my map of content for it, but I've linked it into here. And so you can see in there, it's this day. I would know that that's it. And I can navigate backwards and forwards because I've done that. Right, what else do I need? Well, since at the moment it's only predictions, I probably want to make some predictions. Now, at this point, I know where I'm going, but I don't think I've got anything other than my OSs. I don't think I've got anything in here that would help me with the predictions. So I'm working top down. I know what I need, which is something for WWDC 2023. Maybe I'm writing an article, a series of articles, doing a podcast. I need to look up the predictions. Now, the predictions for what? What are we likely to see? And I think it's fairly self-evident that we're going to get macOS whatever. What else am I going to put in there that we're going to see? We are probably going to see iOS 17. Hang on, that should be a 2, not a 3. And we're probably going to see the Apple Watch, whatever that one is, and iPadOS, etc. I'm going to put iPadOS in. Is that 17 as well, or did they renumber it? I think it's the same. Never mind, it is now. Right, so what I'm doing is I'm putting placeholders in. And I would then probably put questions underneath that I then need to go away and find the answers to. Right, but also in this map of content, I want a reference section. So I'm going to put in another heading 1 and I'm going to put reference. And there's a couple of ways that I could do this, but we'll do it by hand just for the sake of doing it. Right, we know over here, we've got this cheetah thing. You just need a page. It doesn't matter what that page is, but I, in essence, need to put all of this in here. Do I see Jammy in?
Yes.
Oh, you need to go back to the beginning and watch. You were mentioned lots. Simon's got a treat for you. Bargain, wasn't it, Simon? Right, so in my reference section here, I want to reference all the stuff that I've already got. So I will put a heading in there so I know what it is, which is macOS. And then under there, I want references to all of these. So there's a couple of ways I can do that. I could repeat what we've already done, which is focus another window so I can make a multiple selection. Like that. And then drag these into there. If you've already done that before, which we have, then don't reinvent the wheel. You can go back in here and grab these and copy them and paste them into there. So a couple of things that you could do. But I'm building up a map of content. This is what I want to refer to when I'm working. And that then becomes a map of content. How far you take this in terms of the extra information that you put in here. So what I'd be thinking there is, do we have anything on the name? Next thing I probably need is new features. Now I did see today, and bearing in mind these are only rumours at this stage, I did see that the developer of day one said it's been Sherlocked. If you've no idea what Sherlocking is, it's what happens when Apple decide to take the functionality of your app and build it in. If you think of what they've done with the Spotlight search thing, they still haven't Sherlocked Alfred. They still haven't Sherlocked Raycast. But they're trying. But there is a rumour that they are building in a journal app. So, is day one going to be Sherlocked? I would then put in there, is there going to be a journal app? I think there could well be. But what I'm doing at this stage is I'm collecting my thoughts together for things that I need to research, find out, dive into. Obviously, the other thing that I've not put in there in predictions is hardware. Today, it was 400 days since they last mentioned the Mac Pro. It'll probably be another 400 till they mention it again. But hardware, are we going to see a Mac Pro? The glasses. Oh, let's not mention the glasses, but are we going to see anything like that? So I put this in here, and then this document becomes more than just an index. So on the left, we have a very basic map of content. Here are the previous versions of macOS. It's not opinionated in any kind of way as to how I should use that. Whereas the one on the right is giving me prompts to go find stuff. Are we likely to get a Mac Pro? Are we not likely to get a Mac Pro? Personally speaking, I know what I would like. I would like a 32-inch iMac. Oh, but Timmy doesn't seem interested in pleasing me. Something wrong with the man. So basically anything that may come up hardware-wise, any questions you may have about the OS, and then work through iOS 17 and what features may be in there and may not be in there. And then this becomes much more of a living, breathing document in line with Nick Milo's thinking, that it is there to aid you in the creation of content rather than being just an index. Left-hand side, basic index. Right-hand side, not so basic. It's now unique to you. If you put your questions in as you go, one, you're not going to lose them. So these could all have been on separate post-it notes on the desk. But by putting them in here and putting some kind of context to them, I'm linking what I don't know, which is predictions, with what I do know, which is the reference to all the previous versions. So if I suddenly find out that in macOS they're going to add a feature, let's say they're going to rebuild the tags feature. So let's say on new features, I find out they might be rebuilding the tag feature. I know in one of these things, because these are awfully long, I know in one of these tags were introduced. Now they were there in Tiger, so there's no point researching Sierra. So I would go back to Tiger and I would work backwards and find out the one that introduced the tags and what the logic and rationale was at that time. I would then come back up here and then maybe expand that. So now I've got my information about tags. This is how I then work. So rebuilding the tags in. Now at the moment I haven't got a name and I'm not going to call it Tabbycat. In Mac OS 2023. So whatever was released then. I then put square brackets around that, and when I get some information about that, I click on it and I put the information in here. Information about the new tag system. And that's where that information goes. But getting back into here, that is the link to this page, and that is the page that contains the link. This is now, we've spent, are we on to week 14? We've been doing this in Obsidian for quite a while. But it takes a while for it to sink in, and then you really need to see it in action to appreciate how amazing it is that it works like you think. So I then click on that, takes me back to here, highlights it in yellow so it knows where I've landed from, and then I can start on something else. So let's say in here, and I would probably have this, I would put square brackets around day 1. I would probably put square brackets around Sherlocked. When I click on day 1, it takes me there. I would have notes about that. So day 1 is a journaling app that's been around, well, for me, 2012. I can tell you exactly when that was. 2012. I started using it a day in February when we took Maya to the vets and we thought we were going to lose him. And I started journaling on that day. Happy to report there was 2 more years of fun with him. So I started using it in 2012. I've used it every day since. So I write something about it in here. Supported and promoted by Apple until 2020. That is important because if they're bringing their own out in 2023, that's why they stopped supporting them, because their idea was at some point they would Sherlock them. Right, so that's the information I've got at the moment, but I would add to that and I would research extra as we go. But as I'm going back, I'm looking at Sherlocked and I'm thinking, right, I would expect if I put Sherlocked wiki, I should be able to go in a browser. That's interesting. It's come up with Sherlock. Right. Here we go. Right. This is the actual app where the name Sherlock came from. And the term Sherlocked now means to be subsumed into macOS. So that one's quite relevant. So I'm going to make a copy of that, but I'm looking, there you go, Sherlocked as a term. So that's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to move that out of the way so I can put in here Sherlock software, and then I'll put in Sherlocked as a term. Now, what I'm looking for then is actually the text of that. So I'll put that in there. And that would be some kind of heading. All right, I then don't have to go out and look for this information. I can come in here. I would put where it's from, and that is the link at the top as well. So I'd put source, and I'd, where are we? There's the source. And then I'm straight back in here and I'm still focused on this, but all my information is like spanning out from it like a mind map, only it's text-based. Each bit linked to something else. What else have we got that we could put in here? If I wanted something about the name, I could already have something written about that. I could already write something about the new features. And that way I use this as an index, but a map of content being much more than an index. Obviously the one on the left, simple index. One on the right, I can add to it. I can put extra headings in. I'm also probably in my reference, I've got my macOS reference, I'm probably going to have lots of references from articles that are coming in about what we can expect from WWDC. So that is how I would go about it in terms of a map of content. Now, as I say, that is only one way to make a map of content. I'm going to do 2 more things in the sub-series of Obsidian about maps of content. So this one has focused on text-based maps of contents that have been handmade. So the one on the left, irrespective of how basic it is, it's been handmade. I dragged and dropped those links in, either individually or in a batch. That is obviously not the most efficient way to work, and many people say, well, can't we automate that? Yes, you can, but do you really want to? Because all you would end up with is like the old style notebook with an A to Z index. It gives you no context. It allows you to ask no questions. It's literally just an index to your content. Now, the answer is yes, it can be done. And for certain things, it may be useful. So for example, if I have a folder and it's got all of the MacBites recording notes in, I don't need a very clever map of content for that. I just need an index to it. That's it. But that's not where it ends. That's only the beginning. So the first thing that I'm going to do next time is automate the creation of the map of content that is on the left. There is no way to automate the one on the right, because that is coming from you. You may have a completely different perspective on WWDC than I do. I know from previous experience, this is my 17th, 18th WWDC, I know what I'm going to need. I'm going to need to know what hardware we're likely to see. I'm going to need to have some awareness of what is likely, what we can expect from macOS, maybe even the name of it. Little things that I pick up like, oh, they've not supported day one for the last 2.5 years. Is it about to be Sherlocked? I can throw that in. But if you were making that index, you may add completely different things. And that's how it should be. There is no right and wrong way to do an MOC. It is right or wrong for the particular need that you have. So if we look at the one on the left, even the fact that that isn't in the right order, it didn't come in the right order, and I have no idea. It should have done, but it didn't. So I would need to move the Ventura one down. Ventura would be down, should be down the bottom. Now I can do that, of course, with shortcut keys and stuff, but even the fact that that was almost automated in terms of just copying and pasting it in, and it didn't work right. So I do think there's a place for automation. But I think you will get a deeper understanding of any topics that you're working on if it's more manually approached. The third way of doing it, so there is the 2 manual ways that I've shown you, and there is an automated way. But there's also a more visual way, because while this is okay, sometimes you just need to visualize what you've got. You may need to visualize it to see that you've got too much information in one part, not enough in another part, or maybe you're just a visual thinker where you get a better idea by seeing it visual. So visual maps of content are pretty new because obviously they rely on the canvas, and the canvas was only added at Christmas. But that is where I am going with MOCs. Let me know in the chat, have you heard of MOCs? Are you using them? As I said, we do already have some in here that would qualify as being an MOC. We made all these pages for Second Brain. And when I made them, and obviously I haven't put notes in here because my notes are in my vault and this is my demo vault, but this is genuine. These started life like that, and I copied them into this vault. So there's session 1A and 1B and 2A and 2B and so forth. But it's no good like that. I need to be able to navigate between them. We look down the bottom, we have a session list. That in itself is not an MOC. That is a transclusion that is linking to all of the other pages. But it's coming from this page here, which is BASB 17. There is the session list. It is that text there that is included or transcluded in the other pages. But this page itself, that could be considered to be an MOC. It's a map of content. That's my session list. But if we were to look at my index in my real vault, I don't just have the sessions in there. I would have in there resources. I would have, we've got some workshops coming up. So I would have a list of the workshops and I would build this out, and that would then become an MOC. It's a map of my BASB cohort 17 content, and therefore it is a map of content. It's a fairly staid map of content. It certainly isn't helping me think. It's just acting as an index. But once you've got these things in here, then you start to build a structure of maps of content. So we've got the BASB one in there. Did I add ship 30? Yeah, I got a ship 31 down there, right? They were my cohorts. So what I could then do, you're not limited with MOCs being like They are just standard notes, but flying around your system, only indicated by the fact that they've got the words MOC. What you can do is build a structure. So let's imagine this. Again, we're still working fairly basic at this point, just manually. But let's say I want to track my personal development with an MOC, a map of content. So what have I been doing lately? Well, the number one thing that I've been doing there, so let's say these are courses. So I'll put my courses, I might even call that active courses. All right. And in there, I know it's going to be Build a Second Brain, and that's its mock. It doesn't have the word mock in it, but it is a map of content. And my next one is going to be Ship 30. And what else am I doing at the moment? I think that's it. Well, I'd probably put down the captain's table as well, because I've been doing loads of work on that. So let's say the captain's table. Right, so I don't have a page for that, but there are my active courses. Right, let's say that I've got completed courses 2023, and I want to put those in there. So I'm just going to put in here, you know, course 1. Oh, it's picked up after hours. Okay, no, I just want you to be course 1. Course 1, right, leave it be. And course 2. And course 3. So I've finished these courses. But if I want to reference these, they are now in my map of content for personal development. But this is a top level mock. The Build a Second Brain 17 and the Ship 30 are the next level down, but they are maps of content. So if I want to call them mocks, I can do. Doesn't matter. One way or the other, it doesn't matter. What you're doing is you've got your content in your folder structure inside your vault, and what you're doing is you're adding notes to add meaning to that by pulling the content into maps of content notes. So, do we have any questions on that?
No,
I can see that Kim said something. Can't read it though.
I'm going to have to wrap my head around MOC versus index. May take a while, as MOC looks like a notes page to me.
Yes, it could be. I mean, Nick Milo calls it a thinking page, a development page. A map of content could be the map to an article. So that could be the actual jump-off point for the article. Or, as I say, it could be as simple as just linking to a few pages. See, Carol's using MOCs. I think people, as I've said, do get really, really hung up on the terminology. You know, and I've seen people virtually they've definitely come to virtual blows about, you know, the linguistics of it. I guess an index, I don't think it matters what you call it. If you want to call the one for Build a Second Brain an index, then do it. You know, if you want to call the one for macOS an index, then do it. If index means something to you, then do that. I've just showed that this WWDC one, you could say it's a note and it's just pulling information in. But you could say it's a map of content if you're going to pull through a lot of content, and it just provides you a way to navigate around it. It's just another term that if it adds anything to your personal knowledge management, then use it. If not, don't. Completely up to you. I don't think there's a right and a wrong way. Some people think that there is, and they either want to copy somebody else because they seem to have it all figured out and they want exactly what that person has. Or they're trying to get some clarity in their own system, and they've seen a system that they like, and then it becomes like, well, this is the only right way. I don't think there is a right and a wrong way. It depends what you're trying to achieve. So I would be unlikely, I certainly wouldn't say that the WWDC note is an index. I would say it is a map of content for me, because the content that I have in my vault includes reference material that I want to have to hand from this page, so I don't have to go and search for it. I always feel in Obsidian, if I have to go and search for it, I've gone wrong somewhere. I know you can search, and I know it's got great search, and you can even bookmark the searches now. But I always feel like, why have you had to go and search for that? Why have you not linked it to something? You know, or doesn't it fit with anything that you've got? So I like to think around what I've got. I still have pages that aren't linked to anything else, you know, and I do go in and have a look at that. And I personally, on a weekly basis, go into the inbox and tidy it up. So I wouldn't have all this build a second brain stuff in there. What I would actually do with this, so I'm going to put that in there because I've got to click the first one. So let's say that lot, I would actually have that as a project while it's active. And so I would open this up and I would add a folder. And that would be Build a Second Brain Cohort 17. Now, at the moment, there's nothing in that folder, but there is soon going to be. So all of this stuff that I've got up here, I can drag down and I can put it in that folder. Now, the beauty of this is it doesn't break any of the links. All of the links get updated and all of that content is now in that folder. When Cohort 17 is over, it's not an active project for me. So where does it go? Well, it could go in an area, but it wouldn't really fit because the next thing with BASB will be Cohort 18. Now, you could say it's a resource. It would go in there as a resource. To be honest, it's probably better in the archive. When it's finished, it's finished. You're not throwing it away. Putting it in the archive doesn't mean you're putting it in the bin. It just means that, yeah, I've dealt with that. If I ever need it, I know where it is. It's an archive. So it belongs either in resources or archives, depending on your opinion. But if I want to archive that, now it's archived. Simple as that. That frees up space in my inbox, which I like. I do have stuff that's in the inbox, and it stays in the inbox for a good couple of months, maybe even longer. But in the end, it's going to get tidied up, like all of this macOS stuff. There's no point having that in the index. What I would do with that, in the inbox, not the index. Right, resources. Let's make a new folder. Where have we gone? There's the new folder. And that would be macOS. And I would put my resource notes in there because they are resource notes. So let me put on there versions. There we go. Right, so I'm going to grab... never mind, we'll put the whole lot in. Right, Ventura. But I don't want that one, do I? So I'll have to move them and then move it back. But I will grab these and I will just put them in that folder. As far as I'm concerned, they are resources. Would I put them in the archives? Could do, doesn't matter. Depends how active you want your resources to be. And of course, I've got that MacBites one that we don't want in there. So we'll whip that back up and put it in the inbox and I will deal with it later. So I've tidied up the inbox considerably. These can be folded away. Nothing breaks. Nothing breaks. And it just tidies it up. So, do we have any questions on that?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't get wound up, Kim, about it looks like a note. They can do, they don't have to. I think on a very basic level, grasp the one on the left. Because the first thing I'll do next week is automate the creation of the one on the left. Because the problem with the one on the left that's just a basic list is the fact that as soon as you start adding files, they're not in that index. So we will first of all automate the creation of what I would call an index note. And then we'll look at the extra stuff. So if there's no questions on that, which it doesn't look like there is, let's look forward to automated maps of content and visual maps of content. Coming up, talking of which, coming up, 28th, how's it at the end of April? Oh, but good news, next weekend, bank holiday. Bank holiday on May the 1st. We need to warn the world that we're on the prowl, Mike. Some disaster usually befalls. Right, available on demand is everything that we do. So youtube.com/ElaineGiles, you will find all of that. There is the After Hours playlist. I'm contemplating making the early After Hours listed instead of unlisted, you know. Because they're unlisted, but the only way to get to them is through the playlist. But the newer ones are unlisted. I shall ponder that. Let me have your thoughts. You'll find that at macbites.co.uk/after-hours playlist. And of course, we love you guys. I've enjoyed it tonight. Hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, give us a like. It really makes a difference with YouTube. And of course, you could subscribe and hit the notification bell, and that way you won't miss anything that we do. Unlike Jammy, who missed his starring role. Right, there is my list at elainegiles.com/VIP. And there is the MacBites list, which is at macbites.co.uk/macbites-mail. In between the shows, we do have a Slack channel where we carry on the conversation. If you want to join us, go to macbites.co.uk/join Slack. That is if you want to join and are not already a member. If you are already a member, if you go to macbites.co.uk/Slack, you'll be able to log in and chat. Oh, that was fun, wasn't it?
It's Carol's wedding anniversary next Friday.
Oh, happy anniversary. Happy anniversary to you and Mr. Carol. Right, let's switch that to there and see if we've got any questions. Let's come out of that. There we go. Now I can see the chat. Oh, lots went on in your absence, Jammy. We pondered that you were at the gym. I said it's got to stop, you know. In fact, Simon, never mind bank holiday next week, we've got another one the week after. Yeah, could do with crowning that idiot repeatedly, 3, 4, 5 times. Anything that was worth a holiday. Who's going to be sat glued to the coronation?
Kim has an off-topic question.
That's fine, away you go. My tawdry browser history. Oh, it was much more interesting than that, Jammy. Honestly, it was. Right, let's have the off-topic question. There's no such thing as an off-topic question here. Just question away. Poor Tracy's not well. Oh, dental surgery. Oh, my. Oh, I can empathise with that. I'll have to zoom that out a bit. I don't know what's wrong with this.
Kim's
right, there we
put
go.
a question in.
Okay, let me move down. Now it's jumping all over. Okay, you have some software that will no longer be supported in Ventura. Oh, no. It's no longer being made. Can I upload Monterey on an external hard drive and run it there? Ooh. They've kind of stopped you doing that. They've made it incredibly difficult to get a bootable external to do that. What I'd try first, Kim, is making a virtual machine. While we have Parallels and we have Windows installed on Parallels, and I use it for Publisher and Mike uses it for Excel. But you can install other Mac OSs as well. So if I wanted to play around with Ventura but not overwrite Monty, then I could install Ventura into a virtual machine. So I would try a virtual machine first. It's easier. Can you run old versions of Mac in emulation? I do believe you can, Simon. You just got to get it installed. The trick of that, of course, is that they don't make an installer anymore, and I don't think you can either. They've got the ability to. You might have to work backwards. So you might have to find one. Let me think. Was it Biggles was the last one that you could make a boot disk? Let's assume Biggles is the last one you could make a boot disk. Install that and then upgrade from there into this VM. The trick with that is going to be make sure that you've got a backup copy of the VM in case that dies a sad death. Other than that, maybe look around for some software that can do the same as the software that you've got a problem with. That is how I've worked. Like when you think to yourself, I cannot, I can't use this software anymore and I need it. And then you go out and you do the search and you do find that there is something else that might even be better. Read that blog post, Kim, your exit strategy. And I go through, I make a checklist. So I make a checklist of what the application does that I want. Then I look round, I'll find the new one, I can't use that because of this. And I've got all of that listed. And then when I'm testing applications, I test them against this checklist. And sometimes you find that the app is even better, that it's got something else that's better. But, I appreciate if it's some kind of app like finance, then probably not. Probably not. Just depends on the app. But have a read of it anyway. Right, not a monarchist. Oh, I thought the Queen was fabulous. It's just this idiot I've got a problem with.
It's her birthday today.
It's the Queen's birthday today. She would have been 97. I was just hoping she was going to last forever and ever and ever. And maybe skip a generation. I'm ambivalent, Simon, but I do think in these cash-strapped times, spending this amount of money, and have you seen how many times they're doing rehearsals overnight? And all the press are out taking photos. So he's going to be driven along in a gold carriage, probably going past people who haven't got 2 pennies to rub together on the curb. I've got no time for that, I'm afraid. Oh dear, that's just me though. So I'll probably end up seeing highlights, but it was actually a bit of a game here, wasn't it, with the Queen's speech? My mum was never bothered about the Queen's speech. Dad was just nosy, but Gran was obsessed. My grandmother could not see the Queen's speech. So we used to leave her to it. It was like, you got extra brownie points, which you could exchange for Yorkshire puddings if you managed to miss the Queen's speech. So we just gamified it. Oh my.
There's a question for you there.
Who's my male crush? Mike's not included. Mrs. Simon has a thing about Chris Packham. Oh, isn't he the nature guy? I think he said something once. Let me see if he did, if I've got the right guy. How do we spell that? Right, let me see. I'm sure he came out. He was probably trying to flog a book or something at the time. I'm sure he came out and said something derogatory about pandas, and at that point he was dead to me. Yeah, he came out, this was in 2009, and I've not forgotten it yet, and said pandas should be left to face extinction. Well, like I say, totally dead to me. Jamie feels the same. Yeah, yes, Simon, definitely not him. Anybody but him. Oh, I don't really. I mean, I do have a laugh, don't we, about Craig. But not really. I mean, he's not that good looking, Craig, is he? It's just all the women swoon, and I don't get it myself. But I don't really think there is actually anybody. Because I'm far too interested in how people think rather than what they look like. So there again, I mean, some might say Chris Packham's a good looking bloke. All I can't get past the fact he wants to kill the pandas.
He's got Asperger's.
Oh, has he?
Yeah.
Oh. Is that just an excuse?
I don't know.
How can you be a nature person?
I just read it on the internet.
Wildlife expert, and want to kill the pandas. I mean, it's like on the list of things not to be said by a wildlife expert. Number 1, kill the pandas. No, that's not good. Oh, and then he wants tigers to follow. What an idiot. What an idiot. Didn't he also, somebody took offence at something he did? And didn't they leave dead birds at his gate? Let's Chris Packham and dead bird. There you go. Let's see if I'm hallucinating. No, I'm not. There you go. And I've got to get this word right. Naturalist. Naturalist. Yeah, you don't get that one wrong because the other that means naked. Here we go. Chris Packham has condemned the hanging of dead crows outside his home in the New Forest as ghastly. It comes as the licensed shooting of crows has been halted after a challenge by his Wild Justice campaign group. So crows are all right, but you can shoot pandas. Yeah, I'm with Peter. That doesn't make doing away with the pandas any better. I mean, I don't agree with hanging dead birds outside his house, but there again, I don't particularly agree with shooting them either. Oh, I didn't realise he was always getting into trouble for stuff. I totally ignore him after the panda thing. It sounds like he needs to go extinct. I thought, sadly, Debbie, I think that could be a while. He's all over the place. You know, any time anything to do with nature, or even climate change these days, and he's there front and centre. Don't get it myself. So no, definitely not for me, Simon. Tell Mrs. Simon she can have him. Not happening. Yes, Craig is Bouffant Man. Hair Force One. But I don't think he's that good looking. And like I say, I'm more interested in how you think than what you look like. Oh, Carol says leave her tigers alone. Exactly, you see. How to upset everybody on the planet in 2 seconds flat. That's Chris Packham. Oh, how could anyone want to do away with the pandas? They're so charming. This is what I mean. I think his case was that there was too much effort being put into saving pandas and not enough into saving other things. But, let's be honest, if the other things are beetles, you're never going to persuade me. Pandas have been my thing. My very first toy was a panda, and they've been my thing ever since. And I don't see any harm. I mean, I know there's a lot of money gone into saving them, but I don't see any harm in doing that. I think it would be incredibly sad if they died out. I just don't get the guy. I really don't. And there's only one thing worse than him, and that's those that appear on like photos having gone to Africa to shoot animals. What's wrong with you? Really? I don't get that. So, I think there was a picture of Trump's kids having shot something. Some like big animal, like a hippo or a rhino or something. I don't get it. I really don't get it. I think in this country, we're in the throes of getting rid of that. I don't think you can bring trophies back, or it's going through the House of Commons at the moment. I mean, why that would have to be debated, I don't know. That should just be a, yep, fine, tick the box, move on. But there you go. Johnny likes the videos where they're climbing all over people trying to clean the pens. I just love pandas. They are just adorable. When I went to London, I was probably about 19, and I went down to London, and I got this 2 weeks where I was doing exams, and I decided that I was going to go to the zoo as like light relief. And I went to the zoo to see the panda. And this panda sat in the tree for 4 hours. By the time this panda came out of the tree, everybody else had gone. There was only me there with a camera taking pictures of this panda. I absolutely loved it. And I went into they have a shop at the zoo. And obviously the stuff they're selling is to like pay the upkeep of the animals. And I went in there, this would have been the late 80s, and I went in there and they had this panda, stuffed panda. It was about 2 foot long. OMG, it was the cutest panda I had ever seen. And just having seen the real thing, it was like a cub. It was, only 2 foot long, but the shape of it and everything was absolutely perfect. It was, you see pandas and they look like teddy bears in black and white. This was a panda. I picked it up and I was cradling. It was like, I've got to have this. And I'm looking at the little claws, and they were like pieces of leather bent over. So there were proper little claws. Oh, it was the nearest I've ever been to broody, Mike. So you were very lucky there. It was just this panda. But the thing was, it was £28. £28 in the late 80s. Was like a week's, that was probably my 2 week food allowance. But luckily there were very few shops to buy food. So Mum, I rang her up and I said, I can't take the car out or I'll lose my parking space. And there's no shops nearby to buy food. So the next day, somebody knocks on the door and says, you got a parcel. So I goes downstairs and there was this almighty parcel. It must have been about 3 foot wide and 4 foot long. And I opened it. It was rattling as well. So I goes upstairs with it, people looking very strangely at me. And I thought, what's this? And I knew it was my mum. I could tell her writing. I opened it up and she'd only bought me 48 pot noodles and sent them to me. So I thought, well, guess what? Don't need the money for food now, do I? So I went and bought the panda. And it's still here today. It's called Chia Chian. So yes, you're not taking my pandas off me. That was the worst thing that guy could have said. Worst thing. Oh my. Oh, Kim's first toy was a panda teddy bear. Yeah, my first one looked more like a teddy bear. It was from my aunt in Ireland, and they lost it at the hospital. Mum did buy a replacement, but it was never quite the same. Oh, we did the red panda thing too, Simon. I don't think they had any at London when I was looking there, but we went over to Chester, didn't we?
We did.
And they had 2 or 3 red pandas there, but
trees.
They were just as shy in trees. And I remember sitting on that bench. Do you remember? And I'm like, I need a longer lens, or I need a ladder, one or the other. And they were right at the far end of the zoo, weren't they? Oh, I was exhausted by the time we got there. But I said to Mike, I'm just going to sit on this bench until forever. And I think we were probably there about 3 hours. How much is Obsidian? You think you should use it? Have you seen the demos? It's free. It's totally free, Simon. The only time you need to pay is if you want to share your notes in terms of publishing them. So like it will generate you a website, or if you want to use Obsidian Sync. You only need to use Obsidian Sync if iCloud doesn't work for you and you need to share it on an iOS device. If you want to synchronize between a Mac and Windows, you can use Dropbox, Google Drive, pCloud, whatever you want. The only time you need iCloud or Obsidian Sync is to synchronize to an iOS device, which is why I use it. But other than that, it's totally free. So certainly to try it, there is no trial involved at all. And they have actually just reduced the price of Publish. I think it was something ludicrous, like $16 a month, or something like that. Let's have a look. Obsidian Publish. I think they could have halved it. Yeah, they've halved it to $8. Now, one thing to be aware of, if you do decide to go for the sync, which I do, you can share it with other people. You don't have to share your password to be able to do it. And the $8 is actually Canadian dollars. So I was working on the fact it was American dollars, and apparently Canadian dollars were less. So I ended up paying less, which I had no idea about when I bought it. You've used another few for notes. We got fed up with sunsetting or upgrade. That's the problem. Other people have said that they've used, one was Mem, which I looked at, and the mobile app's appalling. And the other one was, what's the other one? Or was it Mem? Mem, and I think there was another one. But the problem is, it's like, let's all use Roam. So we all head off and use Roam. And then it's like, no, let's use Obsidian. And then other people move on, and it becomes, let's use Logseek, let's use Mem, let's use this. And I'm like, well, where are they now? You don't quite know where they're at in terms of... So to me, I want something that works for me. And Obsidian is nothing more than a framework sitting over the top of a folder full of Markdown files. So if it goes away tomorrow, you've got Markdown files. Import them into DevonThink and carry on as you were. So that's why I use it. And I did do the Roam thing, but I did take the stuff out of Roam. Roam actually still has features that Obsidian doesn't have. And the way that Obsidian does block references, when you put the hat symbol and stuff, no, I can't be doing with that. That I can't be doing with. But I think when I thought of Roam and I thought, I don't want to lose my block references, I then went to Obsidian and like, who needs block references? And carried on. Just the way you think. So give it a try. Give it a try. Right, Jamie says you could show it to us on the webcam at some point in the future. What am I agreeing to show on my webcam with?
The Panda.
The Panda. I'll dig the Panda out. There you go. I'll put it in Slack. I'll dig the Panda out. Got a sneaking suspicion it's in the wardrobe behind that door that doesn't open. It was one of my mother's worst DIY attempts. Don't talk about the wardrobe door. Oh, dear me. Right, do we have any other questions before we head off?
Doesn't look
I'm tempted by an ice cream. Oh, well, I've got lots to put on there, haven't I? I've got the theme and the templates and stuff like that. So, as long as you've put all of that down there. Right, okay then. So I think at the moment we'll see you next week. I've got some stuff on the boil. I've got the series of shorts. So I'm working on 5 at once at the moment. I think that was ambitious, but never mind. And there's a couple of sessions, but the sessions are probably going to have to wait until the end of the Ship 30 thing. Because the Ship 30 thing has become like 2 different things. It's become, here's some things that you need to know about creating shorts. And then the next one is, here's something about Affinity Publisher. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. That's the best I can do at the moment. There you go. Ice cream. Yes, Simon, if you get to this stage in the show, I do tend to have an ice cream at this point. It'll usually be a Magnum of some kind. Now, we don't eat chocolate, but Kim assures us that white chocolate's not chocolate. We like Kim. She has she's the authority on what is not chocolate. And as long as what I like isn't chocolate, I am fine. So I'm thinking a white Magnum, possibly. I'll have to see how I feel. But for the moment, we're going to say goodnight. So it's good night from me.
And good night from me.
We will both see you next time. Stay safe, guys.